recording. All right, this is the May video chat with fans. And I kind of wish there was a way I could tell YouTube to not recommend this. You know, I kind of want this to just be for people who are like intentionally seeking it out, because this isn't really worth recommending. So if YouTube recommended this to you, I'm sorry. Just close it. Maybe check other stuff on the channel. Yeah, again, these are like the sort of proof of life videos, you know, that I'm still alive working on things. So yeah, I made notes on that. Okay. So what's going on right now is I am still working on the videos. Two different things happening for the series. For Game Dungeon, I've realized my editor process was going a little too slowly for like testing people out. So I changed up the format, and it's more like the Hunger Games now, except with better prizes if you lose. And several people have lost already. I'm kind of glad I switched to that. So the results have not concluded on that yet, but I'll find out relatively soon, I think. Because there can only be one editor for the next episode. However, if somebody else does great, I can cycle them to a different episode. But I warned everybody about that up front. But no, there's been some casualties so far with the new editor gauntlet. So that's what's holding up Game Dungeon at the moment. Again, it's kind of a gambit to maybe get a lot more Game Dungeon out later. We'll see. And if not, then I'll at least know. I really should have done it this way from the beginning. It wasn't. It went differently in my mind. So, but that's okay. It's stumbling towards progress. That's what a lot of what I can do sometimes. With Freeman's Mind, this one, you know, this next episode, I actually wanted something custom in it. Believe it or not, I'm not planning to add like a bunch of custom things to every single episode. This last one was one I knew I wanted something custom. Like I think even when I started Freeman's Mind too, because that damn jump always bugged me. Because I'm thinking, I'm trying to treat this as real. Freeman would never just jump over a dam on a whim. You know, I mean that could easily kill you, and it's like so avoidable. You know, it's not like that's your only option, you know, if you're in that situation. So I presented the alternative, what Freeman would have done in reality under those circumstances, you know. So, yeah, it used a custom map for that. The next part, there's something custom. I want to see if I can add it. So that's holding it up a little bit. But while I'm at it, this is something that's probably going to take like a minor code change. Someone's helping me with that. But while we're at it, if you have ideas on this part, like if you know the source engine, I'm pretty sure Valve introduced a bug like a year and a half ago, something like that, to Half-Life 2, where the Metro Cops no longer can crouch. And while that's not going to be an issue for a while, I haven't checked to see if that affects the Overwatch soldiers. And maybe we can fix that, because who knows when Valve's... See that... Or maybe I can revert to an earlier version, but then that might have had a different demo bug where like their heads weren't looking the right way when you record a demo. So I think last we checked, that bug still might be there, the one where they can't crouch, but the one where their heads were looking the wrong way did get fixed by Valve. So it's always like an exchange of bugs and fixes with them. So yeah, if you think you know how to fix the crouching bug, by all means email me, russwsky@gmail.com. So since I'm trying to do a little custom thing for the next episode, somebody's hoping I skip straight to Raymond Home. No, I'm not skipping straight to Raymond. In fact, I think the next episode is going to be one of the better ones. My problem with the next one might be with like being able to say everything I want to in the time allocated, you know. I have a lot of things to say at Black Mesa East, or Freeman does anyway. Yeah, so that's delaying it a little bit. So meanwhile, I'm working ahead on Game Dungeon, and just trying to mop up the mess from all my files and procedure of everything else, and going over all the reviewers. I mean, not reviewers, editors. Yeah, overseeing the editor Hunger Games. Let's see. Oh yeah, in the midst of all this, because I'm not busy enough, I've sort of inadvertently become kind of the main promoter for actor Paul Morgan Stetler, Curtis Craig from Phantasmagoria 2. The thing is, I don't think I would have forgiven myself if I wasn't trying to help him, because he wanted to put together this, conversations with Curtis thing where he's going to talk to all the cast members, or a lot of the cast members. Like, he's doing it like a once a month video thing. He's done the first one, but he didn't know who to reach out to or like how to get exposure. So I'm trying my best to drum up exposure for him, because it's one of my all-time favorite games. So if I can't be bothered to help the lead actor of that trying to resurrect it a bit, it's like, what am I even doing? So the first one went pretty smoothly. Yeah, so there's going to be, I'll have a link to that, to more of the conversations with Curtis stuff, if you like Phantasmagoria 2. The thing I'm at right now, though, is he mixed it up a little bit, and he's thinking, besides interviewing cast members, he also wants to try to incorporate some of the fans into it at the end, so they can ask like different people different questions, that sort of thing. I'll probably be in one of those myself, but in the meantime, I want to see if I can line up more people. So I'm kicking this off to you. I think we should maybe stick to people who are like on YouTube and maybe have done like a video about, not necessarily Phantasmagoria 2, but maybe are interested in older adventure games, that sort of thing. That way we're not sending them like complete psychos, and we have some idea of what to expect. But yeah, I don't think it matters how big you are, but just like you're interested in the game, Phantasmagoria 2, and would like to talk to one of the actors, or cast members. If you're interested in that, or know somebody would be, again, email me, rosswscott@gmail.com. Try to contact me, though, because I don't know if I have time to like hunt down everybody else. I've tried contacting someone who might be good for the next video chat, but I'm waiting for them to respond. So yeah, he's getting kind of like a third-rate promoter with me, trying to like get him more exposure for Phantasmagoria 2. So yeah, if you're a YouTuber, or who covers like, or is interested in like, old adventure games like that, I'd like to talk to him, contact me. Maybe you can talk to some of them in the future, because this is going to go on throughout the year. So it's going to be like once a month. So I think the next one's on the 21st. Yeah, I think that's it for main announcements. I'm really right now, I've been working a lot of things, but there's still going to be this delay before more videos are out. So my impulse is to just kind of want to hide. So I'm just, in fact, I delayed this video chat a week because I thought there was a chance. I ended up not needing to, but I thought there was a chance like Freeman's Mind might not be out that week. I was thinking, oh man, I don't even want to show my face if I don't have something to show for it. So I'm kind of going to be in like work and hide mode for a while until more videos start coming out. So, let's see. And I think that's it for announcements for now. I really am doing things. I'll prove it later this year is what's happening. Hopefully not much later. Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll go to the questions then that people submitted, and I'll take like live ones at the end. So, unless I just spot them just by chance in the meantime. That happens occasionally. Though I'm not seeing a lot of questions, so maybe this will work. I mean, I'm not seeing a lot of chatter compared to some of the videos, so maybe this will work out. Let's see. Okay, top question. Has anyone ever told you you're the most Linux user ever for someone who doesn't actually use Linux? Your Windows setup as described in your GUI video is genuinely very impressive. I have had people who've seen my desktop before get confused and ask if this was Linux. Yeah, I'm sort of caught between worlds because, it's only relatively recently that Linux has been like a contender for gaming. And even then, depending on how deep you go into it, it may not cut it. I think I haven't checked lately, but like for instance, right now I think it's still lagging behind on VR. Which, yeah, that's actually just recently I've been playing more VR. I've been actually playing Doom engine games. So someone made a mod for GZ Doom? So actually, I've been replaying a little bit of Strife, and I would have thought that it's that like the graphics are too kind of basic to really impress me, but no, it had a plenty of wow factor despite being like sprites and everything. I tried playing some of Heretic again too, although because I never really played through that all the way. I think I ended up just kind of skipping around. And I can see why. I'm really not liking the map design of Heretic. It feels like almost kind of random. So I think VR helps for stuff where it kind of resembles reality, even if it's primitive, but. Yeah, although I wouldn't recommend Strife in VR if you're a first timer, because like some of the menu screens may not look quite right unless you're gonna have or they're squished a little bit. I mean, if you've already played the game, absolutely try it out. But I mean, it's a little rough around the edges, but the wow factor is there. Or if you're a big fan of the old Doom games, I think you might be able to load any single mod that'll work in like GZ Doom. So that opens up a lot of doors if you're into that. So. Oh, somebody's asking how long did the map editing take in Freeman's mind? Not that long. Toby, the guy, yeah, I meant to give him more credit. I think I screwed up on the credit. I just put like additional modding. He did that whole custom map. He's been really fast. He's not the bottleneck in any scenario, pretty much. So. Yeah, so back to the original question. Oh yeah, and even then for the GUI, I guess wait for the follow-up. I've had more ideas since then. I feel like where I want to be with the UI isn't where like any mainstream computer is. So, but I'll be able to kind of give more of an idea of my vision to it though. So yeah, because I absolutely want to customize Windows a lot more than it lets me. However, I'm way too much of a gamer as like a core of what I do for Linux to have been like my mainstay system. So, and see, there's like this conventional knowledge of like, oh, we'll have a dual boot, do Windows for gaming and Linux for work and everything else. Well, my work bleeds over directly into gaming. So it's like, that wouldn't be a very practical thing. And even then, I'm wanting to like do stuff. Even a lot of games, well, this might be in a future video. Even a lot of games you can get running on Linux with Wine. Maybe you can't force the anti-aliasing on it, but you can in Windows. So it's like, and the thing is, even with games, I'm interested in mainstream games, but I'm also interested in these weird games very few people have heard of and may have like no Linux support. So I'm unfortunately the fringe case for gaming on Linux where Windows tends to make more sense. But at the same time, I'm wanting a lot more out of my OS than what Windows hands me. So I'm trapped between worlds, unfortunately. But I have some hope with that. Yeah, I was never intending to make a follow-up to the GUI video, but I'm definitely going to at some point. So I just want to get more ready eventually to show you. So yeah, I think it'll be a little bit more coherent than the first one. Like I'll have my ideas kind of ironed out better because I was struggling to even express all the ideas I was having in the original. So Let's see. 2 dedicated machines, Linux for work, Windows for vanity. Yeah. Well, it's yeah. I guess you could get like a, but even then, it crosses over a lot. Like the amount of crossover, I might be close to like a worst case scenario for like trying to have trying to use Linux for everything I do. You know, it's okay. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. More questions. Oh shoot! I meant to research this one. Okay. Well, I meant to do more research for this one than I forgot. In your Game Dungeon episode for Eternum, you said that you think the U.S. could end up like Argentina. Could you explain a bit more what you meant by this? There was a Argentina. See, my memory's fuzzy on it now, but there was a economic crisis in Argentina, like I want to say around the 2000s, that kind of resembled what I thought we could do, what we could be drifting towards. However, I said that years ago before the pandemic. So I think things have kind of accelerated. I heard an economist, I forget which one, predicting that the U.S. So yeah, nowadays I might revise that, saying that the U.S. might end up looking more like Brazil or India, where you have this kind of, well, so the India especially, you have by that I mean you have like this massive underclass of people, like it could be like 80 or 90% or something, they're basically just kind of living hand to mouth and kind of struggling to survive, and then like a very wealthy top that kind of runs the country. And in the Eternum episode, I was contrasting that to something like the French Revolution, where you had similarly, you had similar economic inequality, except it reached absolutely critical levels, and then that's it. The peasantry revolted and stormed the Bastille, executed loads of the aristocracy, and you had the country in a state of anarchy for a while, and the reign of terror. Whereas India is still plodding along. I mean, it's so it's. I'm not an expert on this. I'll say that up front, but that's. I guess I'm seeing. I mean, I'm sure people will say like, "Well, we had the storming of the Capitol," but that I'd say that was more kind of symbolic more than like an actual threat to overturning the United States, or seizing control of the levers of power of the United States. I mean, we didn't have the National Guard like come in and like storm the place and just arrest everyone, execute. I mean, put it like this: contrast what happened at the Capitol versus like let's say we had like a Red Dawn scenario. We have like paratroopers coming in and they're trying to seize like the Capitol and say no, like let's say North Korea or something like what was it, the Revolution game. Let's say we have North Korean paratroopers just coming in to the Capitol, like seizing it. Do you think we would have responded in the same way? Like, or would that have been a very, very different scenario? Do you think the sovereignty of the United States would be under any sort of threat under that scenario, or would we have just gone like something out of like a video game almost with our level of force response to that? I mean, I think the entire apparatus of the U.S. military would have been upon that, and like that would have ended pretty quickly, So I don't really. I guess my point is I'm not necessarily. I could be wrong in this, but I'm not necessarily seeing the conditions where the U.S. kind of like overthrows. But like no matter how bad the inequality gets, I think we might end up just easing into it and adapting to, well, I'd say adapting kind of with quote marks there to it in just the best we can rather than overthrow the government. I don't know. I'm not seeing necessarily that kind of trajectory because I don't know. Like, well, with the French Revolution, I think what really triggered it was people ran out of food. So yeah, I guess if it gets to the point where like not even not even like some, but like a critical mass of people in the U.S. Yes, can't get enough food, then yes, you could see a collapse of the country. But if it doesn't make it to that point, things could just kind of gradually get worse for the average person. And but society still functions in such a way. I mean, this is a very cynical take on my part. So, and again, I could be wrong, but that's just kind of my. Well, it's like I said in the Robot Jobs video. You know, if I had to guess where we're heading as a future, I think the reality that most resembles it is the one in Soylent Green. Because yeah, it's funny because like take away the actual Soylent Green part of Soylent Green and look at everything else in the society, and I think that's what there's a lot of resemblance or probable outcomes, I guess, to our current trajectories. So, okay, I should keep moving on with questions. In the Cave World episode, your narration sounded like you were recording it as you played the game as opposed to after finishing it. And they're wondering, when do you write out your thoughts on games? When do you record your voice for the episodes? Do you have a mic right there as you're playing? Well, okay, I do not record my voice as I'm playing. That wouldn't go well. I'm not nearly good enough at improv for that. Yeah, that one, if it's actually varied depending on the episode. Where, although I'm trying to get away from a certain style, where that one was one where I would play a chunk of it, like write the script, and I think like be recording it, and then just kind of keep moving forward, try and be a couple steps ahead on that from when I'm recording. So it was kind of modular like that. However, that does lead to longer episodes and maybe including more stuff that I should probably cut out. So I'm trying to get away from that, where what I'll do is I'll play a chunk. I might write down just a few notes of things I know I'm going to want to have. And then I'll start writing the script, but I'm like trying to stop myself from starting to record it just in case I like look at it once it's done and think, hey, you know what, this isn't really adding anything. It's just going to make it longer, leave people bored. I should cut this out. So I kind of want to have more of like a full view of it. That's what I'm trying to get back to. Well, somebody's saying longer. Well, longer, from my perspective, longer isn't good in and of itself. I want I want to have like, I want to give you some value for the minutes that you're watching. You know, I don't want to just ramble. I don't want it to be like these video chats. So. So yeah. Trying to keep the quality ratio high. So anything I'm saying, like I really want to say, either hopefully point out something interesting or something funny, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to drift back to. I do want to take notes as I play it because by the time I get to the end, I might have forgotten a few of my points, but those can just be a couple lines that don't have to be like written out paragraphs because that can usually be enough of a thread for me to kind of recreate my thought process and put it down. So, okay, next question. If you had the power of bringing back one dead game developer studio, which one would that be? See, here I don't have a good answer because I can easily lose track of who makes what. Like, okay, to put it, because I realized just today, I mean, I could look, I'm sure I will look it up when I write the credits. Okay, this next Game Dungeon episode, I've probably seen variations of the first 5 minutes of it that I've been, that the editors have been showing to me like probably like 7 or 8 times by now. I realize I don't remember, and I think there's the opening logos are in the beginning. So there's like the name of the developer that made it. I don't remember the name of the developer. So I don't know who's made this game as of this moment for the next Game Dungeon. So this stuff doesn't really stick with me. That said, I have an alternative answer to this because I was thinking there was one developer that stood out to me because they always had awesome game covers. and was it Psygnosis, I think is the name of it. They were in the like 80s and 90s. I think they're defunct now, but they made pretty much every game that got published by them has just an awesome looking game cover. So I'd like to see them come back and just start making game covers for the industry. They look like these like awesome either sci-fi landscapes or almost like a heavy metal album cover, with like this fantasy art. I mean, it just looked cool. So yeah, I'd like this. I'd be happy to see them come back and start making game covers for the industry. Oh yeah, they made Lemmings. Okay. Well, Lemmings is a lot tamer. I guess more of their like 80s and early 90s game covers then. I mean, Lemmings is a good game cover, but it's not like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's not something I necessarily would want to just like have a blowout poster of and put on the wall, whereas some of their other game covers, yeah, I definitely would want that. So, yeah, yeah, so yeah, that's the best answer I have for you. I don't know who's making what. It's just kind of a blur. I kind of keep moving on with it. Are you physically able to do a backflip? Well, going literally, I think yes. I don't know if I've ever done a backflip or not. Like, I might have done one, just jumping off into the water. I've done forward flips before, like off a trampoline, and I had like some foam rubber. Yeah, I've done forward flips. I'm not good enough to do just a complete standing, or at least I would need a lot of practice. And I get hazy about practicing things where the more room of error the smaller room of error there is, the more you might snap your neck. So I haven't done, right now I'm not capable that I know of doing a forward flip like unassisted without like a trampoline or something. But yeah, that's something where your height actually can kind of work against you, I think. Like if you're a little bit on the short side, you might be better at gymnastics because you can kind of turn in your center of gravity faster. I'm not overly tall, but I'm like 6 feet, so it would. It always, I feel like if I was a few inches shorter, it'd probably be better for gymnastics. But I'm imagine I'm capable of doing a backflip. I don't know if I've ever done it, but I if I had enough incentive, I'd do it into the water. So even if I screw up, yeah, I guess that's how you really practice flips is doing it in the water where you're not going to snap your neck if you do it just the wrong way. So. Do you ever scrap entire videos partway through production? How often do you think it happens? No. The most that usually happens is I might get a few notes down and like get some thoughts in my head, and then I decide like, well, maybe I'll wait on this one or not do it. If I've written pages and I'm recording and everything, I'm gonna finish it. The worst exception to this, though, would be a civil protection episode, which is basically voiced. It's written. We started getting a partial map done, but it just like Source was giving me hell. So that one's kind of been on the shelf for a while. I still want to get that one made in some fashion. But actually, I think everybody's lines were voiced except mine, so I might have to do that. But I don't think my voice has aged too badly to not blend in. So yeah, I think I did some lines, and then one of the voice actor, he did such a good performance that Mike was going to respond to, that I realized, oh, I got to throw out what I did. I got to step this up if he's talking to me like this, So it's like I realized I had to up the performance based on what I was getting. So yeah, don't worry though. There's not a lot of like scrap. The first civil protection episode, I was kind of about midway through it, and I was really giving thoughts about just quitting it but I realized I had put so much work into learning Source Engine and doing all of that I decided it would be more painful to just not finish it than it would be to just kind of log it out and keep going. So, but yeah, I am trying to get away from the Source engine. I mean, Freeman's Mind's obviously going to continue in Source, but that's it. Anything else is going to be probably in Unreal, or if something else comes along. Russ, do you see the movement to save games is at all tying into the right to repair movement? Both are huge on protecting consumer property. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely related. I'm just not sure if, like, the laws are different enough that I'm not sure there would be much to be gained by kind of like combining forces for, like, from a legal standpoint. Because you could have, I feel like you could have a complete and total victory on right to repair, and that could still, games would be just as much at risk. Plus, and kind of vice versa too, because it's the software is trying to exist in this nebulous state. There are things software does right now that would be, with existing laws, would be illegal if you were selling something like a tractor or something like that, you know, where I think, I mean, I'm not, because that's, I don't know. Yeah, I've seen a few, like, it seems like the name on the internet for that is Louis Rossmann, who's like leading the charge on that. So, and it sounds like he's having a hard time with it too, and not for lack of trying. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely I guess a victory in either might lead to can maybe establish precedent for a victory in the other, but I'm kind of, see, that's the thing. I want to go. I'm looking at this like a war, and I'm thinking the U.S. is just not the place to win it, because see, I have that's an advantage we have with games that people don't with right to repair. Is I mentioned in the video, if we have a victory in a major country, like Australia or France, there's not this huge, yeah, that's another thing. There really, it varies a little bit, but I'd say overall across the industry, there is not a huge monetary incentive to destroy games. It's just that we don't have to, so why should we? Is more the mentality, I think, for most of these companies. So the amount of incentive we have to create in order to get them to start doing this is lower than something like right to repair, or the example I always use is loot boxes. You know, companies will fight loot boxes to the bitter end because that is such a cash cow for them to have that. Whereas the cost, if they were developing a new game for just the user to be able to run it offline in some capacity, if they knew they needed to have that, or else they face a fine of millions of dollars from the beginning, they might put the math together and say, yeah, okay, whatever, just have a offline build that we'll release once we end support for the game, and then we'll just keep that code on a file and then release that at the end, whatever, and that'll be good enough to meet the regulations. And that would barely cost anything if it was from the design phase onwards. So, and yeah, okay, I was getting at, so if it becomes too much of a pain to sell a game in, like, again, like France or Australia without having these implementations, well, then they'll just decide, okay, well, fine, we'll put aside an extra $10,000 or $20,000 of budget to make sure we have this, or whatever it takes. And then since we have to do it for these countries anyway, we might as well just have that for the global releases also. And because the extra work will just be not that much. Whereas right to repair, they're doing this because they want to kill, that's their whole business model. They want to kill that product because then you need a replacement for it. Now, some games do this, especially like maybe like multiplayer ones where they have like a new release each year. But I think most of them, it's just not the case. They just don't care, or there's just no force. And see, you can work more with them. It's easier to get people who don't care to care than it is for people who really care in the wrong direction, Like, no, they really want this stuff dead. So it's, yeah, I mean, it depends on the game, but I want to say, I think the majority of games that just die, it's because they don't care. It's not because they want to kill the game. But besides, there's an easy metric. Well, I mean, relatively, who knows, unless you're an insider on all this stuff. Is the game they're killing immediately, is there another game that's extremely similar to it that they're trying to usher people towards? If there's not, then it's not. Then they probably didn't care, and there's not a larger nefarious attitude to it. It's just negligence. It's just negligence, basically. So, yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. I haven't really followed the Call of Duty. I'm thinking of Call of Duty as an example of a game where they have like a new one each year or every other year. I don't know. I have zero idea how possible it is to run old Call of Duty games multiplayer if you wanted to. So I don't know. I don't know if they're a victim, but they're an example of the sort of franchise that would have that kind of incentive if they wanted to. So. Okay, I should keep going. Let's see. Do you ever plan on releasing the custom maps you've made for Freeman's Mind? I hadn't thought of it, but I can ask Toby. Yeah, Toby Eichhorst, if I'm pronouncing his name right. If he wants to release it, if he's all right with it, he can. Usually sometimes mappers are hesitant about this because my understanding is it can be kind of a epidemic in the source mapping community where, like, let's say you make a great map, you release it, then some guy goes, decompiles it, steals the parts he likes, puts it in his map, takes credit for it, releases it. Now he's getting credit for it, and then the guy who made it isn't even aware of this until like way later. And it's like, yeah, thanks for stealing my work, pal. So see, I was operating. The thing is, like, I'm probably like one of the worst offenders for this, but I was operating in this space where it was kind of okay because I was stealing all kinds of stuff from maps for civil protection. But the thing is, I wasn't releasing those as maps and saying I made them. I was showcasing most of what they did and then gave them credits in the video. So it inversely acted as sort of a promotion for these maps that might have just kind of died off otherwise and got to breathe life into it. So because I was releasing film and I didn't have to like put them in that position where they might be having their stuff taken, but I'll ask him, and what he says will be the answer. All right. So yeah, I mean, you have to check. The link's probably I don't think it's broken, but the link's probably buried somewhere on the Cursed Farm site. I know I released a bunch of maps for the Tunnel episode of Civil Protection because several people asked about that. However, they are a complete mess. So they're like as is from when I was making them. And like I would have like a variation of the map where for one scene I'd have one version of it, but then having that all connect would be almost impossible. And the source was a lot easier, just reposition them and have like the next scene there and then some variations on that map. And then some of it's reliant on scene files in order for the map. So it's a complete train wreck, but it's all there, I think. So I don't know. It's in a download somewhere on the site. At the beginning of Freeman's Mind, Freeman was not very fond of puns. And neither were you in Game Dungeon. However, with time, you've come to make them in their videos nonchalantly. Yeah, the thing about puns is it's easier to give than receive. Yeah, it's better to give than receive. Like, it's almost like a game of hot potato. It's like, yeah, here you go. That's kind of how I look at puns. So, I'm not going to go I'm not gonna go in too relentless on you, but if it's like, if I guess if it's, yeah, well, it's kind of like a game of hot potato. If I think it's gonna like make the audience get a reaction out of them, or they're just like, Jesus Christ, Russ, like then I might leave it in there. So, but yeah, that's what it is. It's better with me puns. It's easy. It's better to give than receive. So, what was the last game you have played in split screen? Man, I'm not sure. It was probably a long time ago. I think I was probably either visiting a friend or might have been at this online thing at a college. I want to say it was probably either one of the Mario Karts or maybe I played Halo. I played a little bit of Halo 2 on split screen. It's been forever. Like I want to say over a decade. I haven't really been in the situations where it's I've had people over or was visiting someone else in a long time. So, yeah, it was just I think it might have been like Mario Kart 64 or something something like that. I mean, it was after when that game was new, but that's what they still had, and so we played that. So let's see. Ross, you must have a big interest in cars, looking at your interest in driving games, and also a story about commuting to school. Have you been driving after moving to Poland? How do you compare roads, rules, other drivers? I actually don't have a huge interest in cars. It's like but what I like is like everything surrounding cars. Let you go see things. Races can be exciting. So it's like I'm like a casual fan of cars, whereas the actual like nitty gritty of like the mechanics, like what engine, what car model. I'm pretty. I'm just. I'm more or less a layman at it, but I love driving games because I get to see. Look, like especially in computer games, like driving games often have like some of the best portrayals of like contemporary environments. So if you wanted to see like a country or uh, like or the road like how it is today or you know they're they have some of the best track records for that. I like lots of environments, but I mean I could also like like car stunts or wrecks. Like I have to be careful sometimes on YouTube if it like recommends to me like this car wreck compilation, to not click on those because I can just like get lost in those watching them. Uh, because it can. I mean, not in a morbid sense. I don't like really dark stuff, but I mean just complete screw ups with driving can be quite fun to watch. How do you compare roads to other drivers? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't have a car in Poland. I'm actually kind of glad about that because that's just an extra expense. And I don't, driving in traffic isn't really that fun for me. Like even in a game, you're driving real fast on like winding country roads or, well, I'm not really big on most closed course games, but you're going fast, you're cruising, you're not just stop, going, wait, wait for the light to change. Okay, it's still kind of congested here. Okay, I make this turn, check it's not fun, it's most driving isn't really fun for me. So like actual driving, because and the stakes are higher. You can't you can't like slip into a relaxed mode as much as you can for just a game or something like that. Yeah, so I'm saying they hate day-to-day driving. So I'm glad public transit is relatively robust here. Um, and just not having to have the expense of a car. I mean, if you love driving, then obviously the expense is worth it. But if you can just take a train or a tram or something to get to your work instead, if that wasn't, which isn't an option for a lot of people, or probably most people in the United States, but you might want to take that instead. And But yeah, as for comparing drivers, I'd say okay. I'm sure it depends because the U.S. is huge, but compared to the places I've lived, I'd say the drivers are a little more wild in Poland. Just I want to say it might just be because there's less cops. I mean, you can kind of get away with more stuff here. I mean, the I think I want to say like the second day I was here, like while I was there was just this guy, middle of downtown, lots of traffic, guy on a motorcycle going like I think he might have popped a wheelie even. He was just flying like middle of the. It's like, yeah, how many cities could you do that in the United States and not have like cop lights start flashing and that sort of thing? Uh, let's see. Uh, I'd say this is probably the same in any major city, and actually it might even be less in Poland. But I have seen a few bad drivers, but I saw plenty on my commute back when I was in the United States, and I've heard stories in the U.S. So I wouldn't say Poland has a monopoly on that at all. But I saw one that just started going the wrong way down like a one-way exit. However, I mean, there was another one I forgot. I think they were like taking the wrong turn at an intersection, and like everybody was honking at them. In both cases that I saw pretty bad drivers, they both actually had Warsaw license plates. So you can, I guess they're getting repped in that way. Let's see. But yeah, my dad told me a story about when he was in Boston where this guy was coming at him from the wrong lane. He was trying to pass a bus, and my dad and my dad realized like there was nothing he could do to avoid like getting in a wreck except that he just immediately pulled into a gas station that was right there because that was the only way to just not get annihilated. Also, when I was commuting, probably there were two extreme. It was that route you see in the quarantine video, actually. I think there were two. I saw, man, I have multiple bad driving stories from when I was commuting to school. One of them I remember because things would happen because on much of that commute, like 90% of it, it was just it was like one lane each with no passing. So it's like, and if you got the wrong driver, you really noticed it. Well, okay, I'll let the chat decide if they want to hear me tell more driving stories. But the one I remember was this guy was in front of me, and he seemed like he wasn't really paying much attention. He was kind of like would veer a little bit, and he'd veer a little more, and then there was like a turn, and then it was such a turn that if you just drive completely straight, you're supposed to turn with it. But he just kept driving completely straight, and he ended up on the left side of the road. But the thing is, he kept on driving, and at that point, I backed up because I'm thinking, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Uh, and and then, sure enough, another car starts coming at him from the other side, and then the guy who had veered there, like, ended up honking at him, like, the driver who's driving correctly, until he finally swerved back into the right lane again. And I gotta look at this. Usually was the case with where drivers were I couldn't figure out like what was going on in their head. He was on a phone while he was doing it. Okay, another story from my commute. There was, yeah, the other big one. This one was like the most dramatic, I think. It was a day when it was just raining cats and dogs. And I had gotten past the area where, I was just going down one lane and where it opened up some. I was getting close to the school. And I think it was like two lanes, like on each side, that sort of thing, and like a turning lane. And okay, so it was just complete raining, like just like almost flooding levels. And I've been waiting at the traffic light. I was first at the traffic light, so when it turned green, I was at the lead. And we turned, and the traffic's going, and I'm a little bit ahead. And I see this guy pulling out, I think it was like from a Popeye's chicken or something. And he was the car was kind of a beater, and he was pulling in so slowly into the lane. I was thinking, geez, that's almost kind of dangerous to pull in this slowly because of the traffic. I'm thinking, all right, whatever. And then I realize he's not pulling into the right lane. No, he's pulling into the left lane where I am. And the thing is, he was making such a wide turn. He was almost perpendicular to what I was. And the thought that flashed in my head was, okay, if it was completely dry, like with the traction on the road, I wouldn't be able to avoid hitting him. But as it was just completely wet. Like I'm thinking, I don't have a prayer. So what I did is I got lucky and I immediately swerved into this particular road. It had 2 lanes on each side, but it also in the center, it had like a left-hand turn only lane. So it's like that's where you pull off if the regular traffic's going, so you can like kind of sit and wait for the other traffic to dissipate so you can turn into the other side. So I immediately turned into that, and then I heard like all this screeching behind me from the driver, who was, I guess from his perspective, he was probably just following me, probably not paying attention to this other guy. And all of a sudden I disappear, then here's this other car in front of him, almost perpendicular, that's turning in so slowly that I checked the rear view mirror. I think he ended up slamming on the brakes and like kind of did like, this, I guess probably because the road was so wet, he did this thing where he just like, and he's just turning sheerly from just the brakes kind of locking up to avoid hitting this guy. So that was the most like dramatic traffic thing I remember. But yeah, there were smaller ones where, yeah, I don't think anybody actually got in a wreck. He just got everybody to just completely brake because it's like, surprise, I'm going to block the road because I'm turning. It's going to take me 5 minutes to merge into this road. The other less dramatic ones, this is another phone user, was this person just kept coming to a full and complete stop at every light, even when it was green. He would just come into a stop, and then they would go forward again. Like come to the stop, then go forward again. And yeah, they were on a phone. There was another one I used to make, okay, because there's that long stretch where, again, it's just one lane only and there's no passing lines that, I never broke the law on that except once, where it was right at the very beginning and my visibility was really good. I could see far, to the next hill and everything. And I saw there were like 3 cars in front of me going really slowly. I was like, what's going on? And I looked, and there was a tractor in front going on this road. I was thinking, good God. And like, if there's a tractor, and it was going like, 15 miles an hour or something. Like, if I was thinking, I'm going to be late to class if I actually have to wait for this tractor the entirety of my commute. Like, I mean, that could have like set me back an hour, I think. So I ended up just gunning it past those. There was no, so I was breaking the traffic laws, but it wasn't in a stupid or reckless way. It's just like, I was just so desperate. There was no other cars coming, so I just passed the 3 cars and the tractor and got ahead of them, and then I went back in. So there was no line to do that. You're only supposed to do that if there's like a striped line, but it was safe enough, even though it wasn't kosher. People are talking about slow drivers. See, that's the thing. I think the speed limit was something like 45, but every once in a while you get an old driver that would drive at like 25 or something, and just cause this chain of cars to back up while you're waiting for them to, get ahead. While you're waiting for them to go, because you can't legally pass them, and especially once you have more cars behind them, then it's not even safe to do that, even if there are no cars, because you're so far back. I'm not sure if, I don't think this was illegal, but maybe it was. there was one point at the commute where there was a traffic light, but there was a gas station right next to it. And the thing is, it would make me so desperate to pass these people that were just driving like 15 under the speed limit, 15 or 20 under the speed limit, and just holding up everything. That, well, sometimes what I do is instead of waiting for the light, I would just kind of turn into the gas station, kind of drive through it, and then drive it again. And during the time I did my commute, later towards the end, there ended up being a sign that said no through traffic. And I had to imagine I was at least part of that, the reason they added that sign. There, okay, yeah, and I guess the last story I remember there's probably more, but the last one I remember off the top of my head is the slow drivers holding everything up. That always sucked, but it was usually like one direction. And when I drove back, sometimes I would make a game out of it that I would start, when I'm driving back, I'd see the slow driver in front and just I remember like some old, like confused looking guy in a station wagon. And I would count how many cars are backed up behind him driving back the other way. And I think, geez, I forget the limit on, okay, my memory's fuzzy, but it was either 43 or 63. I forget. For some reason, it was at least 43 cars was like the record I saw for just cars that are backed up behind this guy on this road because he's driving slowly for like, again, going 20 miles under the speed limit for like half an hour, and just backing up everyone. So yeah, somebody's saying I've told this story before. Okay, so maybe if I've told this story before, maybe I got the numbers wrong then. So sorry about that. But yeah, I guess for drivers in Poland, it hasn't been too crazy though. I'd say, well, I've probably mentioned this before too. One thing I have noticed is they are more respectful of people crossing of pedestrians in general compared to USA, where like both for bicycling and just running or walking, I basically never assumed that drivers would necessarily respect the laws of the road because all it takes is one. I tend to operate more on just calculating velocity in my head and just assume that, okay, I'll just assume they're not going to stop for me. Is it safe to go? And if my mind says yes, then I would go. My wife, she said when I first came here, she noticed like I wasn't even thinking about it, but she's like, it's like you're so cautious trying to crossing the road. Like I was just like, checking, like looking for the velocities. I wasn't even thinking about it. It's just that these are like habits I ingrained in my behavior to kind of just stay alive, because like say you're in the right, so what? You're if they can run you over, like so. Yeah, my friend and I, we were talking about this. We realized it's like, bicycling in USA is basically like hardcore mode in games like Diablo 3 or Path of Exile, where 99%, where if you're safe 99% of the time, that's not good enough, So, yeah. So bicycling in USA is basically hardcore mode, where no, it's like even one mistake is not good enough. When it comes where if they decide not to follow the rules, you're getting run over by a car. Well, nope. So yeah, I like the reduced stress on that. Okay, I should get to more questions. Did you know Wallace and Gromit had games of their own? Yeah, I never got around to trying them. I guess I should look into that sometime. Yeah, I think there was like a Telltale one like that. Given that you've pimped Rusty Lake Hotel at the end of April, have you dug into it yet? Yeah, actually, yeah, those. It might still. I'm not sure if it's still free to own. It was free to own like a week ago. There's some game that's ending on the 9th, so might be too late soon. But yeah, so I picked it up. I tried it out. Actually, I beat it. Actually, it was one you could play pretty quickly. It was basically just a lot of puzzles. I had to look up hints for one or two where I just couldn't figure out what they wanted me to do next. But I was able to solve most of them on my own. Um, I mean, it was interesting. It's odd, yeah. Like I think I said I put on a quote on Twitter. It's kind of like a a a David Lynch-ish adventure game with animals, and that seems like that was a pretty good take on it. Uh, by the end, I still have, but like this, things happen, but by the end of the game, I still have no idea what did happen really, or if there's like any larger context to any of this. So it's I mean, if you like that kind of mood, apparently they have more games like that. Yeah, it's like part of a series. There's something Cube or Cubes, and or just Rusty Lake, I think. So I don't know. It's like the story was so threadbare. I'm not sure if I'm motivated to play more of it, but I did beat that one. It was free, so I picked it up and beat it. So. Oh yeah, this one might be a little bit longer. Are you surprised how well things have bounced back after everything kind of collapsed due to? I'm gonna have to censor that. Okay, well, yeah. How far am I in the chat? Okay, a little over an hour. Okay, I'm gonna have to edit the video because yeah, I think the detection I think the YouTube algorithm detects when you say the name of the virus, so I have to make sure I don't say that. Otherwise, it sends me into a different algorithm. So, yeah, no, that's too close. That's too close. What I said. Um, it's kind of collapsed due to the pandemic. I found saying the pandemic is safe enough, so I just go with that. And all other 2020 events. Um, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of like as a kid on Nickelodeon, there was this show called You Can't Say That on Television. And I think whenever they said water, somebody would dump a bucket of water on their heads. And th- I forget. There's something else that I forgot what they had to say. If they ever at any point if they said something else, they dunk a bucket of slime on them. I forget what it was. I'm sure. I bet some of the chat knows what. Oh, maybe it was I don't know. Okay. Yeah, this reminds me of that. Like, I forgot, and then like that. Now there's gonna be a censor beep for people on YouTube, or you can't do that on television. Okay, so I don't know was the slime, and water was a bucket of water on. Okay, yeah. So this is giving me flashbacks to that, or at yeah, it was a Pee Wee's Playhouse. They had the secret word, and they all start screaming if that was said. But yeah, okay. So yeah. Do you think this is a brief reprieve before we begin to slide back into how things were during 2020, or if we weathered the storm? Yeah, no, I would question the premise that we've actually bounced back. I mean, it's there's some things that have, but I think if you look at the total, no, I think we're still in. Yeah, that phrase. I've been using that phrase since I mentioned. Maybe there's a real phrase for this: the fog of badness. I feel like we're still in that because, like, one metric you can use is like unemployment, and since the pandemic started, okay, I think it might have changed recently, but for like I think until only like a month or two ago, you had the number of people like in the United States who were applying for unemployment for the first time never dipped below, I want to say it was like 700,000 each week. That doesn't strike me as bouncing back. You know, I think since then it's gone down to only 500,000 or something like that, which would still just dwarf, I think, every single record prior to that. Like even during like the 2008 during the 2008 crash. Like, in fact, I think there was a meme people were sending around at the time where they were showing the graph at the time. I think it might have been like February or March of 2020, where they were showing the graph of the people applying for unemployment, and they timed it to, I want to say it was like the GameCube or the Wii opening logo, where it was like where they would go like and then like the news. The last bar would be like 50 or 100 times what the previous ones were. Uh, so that, I mean, it's slowed down, but again, these are first time people applying for employment uh, for the first time. So yeah, we only have 500,000 people applying for unemployment this week or something like that. So that doesn't sound like bounce back to me. Another metric is like the evictions. Like from what I remember reading, again, I don't know, maybe the numbers have changed, but from what I remember reading, like in fall of last year, it was something like if we were to just get rid of the eviction moratoriums, I want to say they'll put like 30 to 40 million people like out of their house or their home. I was like, those are yikes numbers. I mean, so, yeah, we could just at any time, as I understand it, at any time, if the eviction moratoriums were to just end, it would, then like overnight, you could have 10% of the population of the country like homeless or thrown out on the street. That's not a bounce back number to me. So even then, there's other things too, because like again, I see the pandemic as kind of like a trigger for what was for how. See what the. I probably mentioned this in the follow-up episode. I see it as kind of a trigger for like what we were already building up. Like what the pandemic really did. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things it did. It's global, obviously. There's all sorts of angles at it. But in my eyes, one of the biggest things it did was it basically had to disrupt economic activity on a very large scale, and we're not meant to. Our system is not set up to handle that at all. Like, in fact, that's kind of what I got at before when talking about stuff like with peak oil it's not that we would run out of oil. It's that so much of civilization is dependent on oil in our modern economy that having a disruption that stays disrupted would mean it would just be like an economic bomb. So the pandemic kind of accelerated where I think we were already going and just made it happen a lot sooner. So, I mean, but that said, obviously, yeah, some people have bounced back from that, but it really depends on what you're doing. I mean, and even then, I don't know how stable that. It's like, society is interconnected at some point. It's like, well, yeah, let's say you have like a lot of people who can do their jobs working at home, or they probably did all right in this. Not saying that, but you know what? They still need to buy groceries, probably. They're probably not growing all their own food also. Or they need just basic supplies, and that depends on other people. And maybe those people who are getting that to grocery stores, they're not doing well at all. So it's all comes back eventually. So it's, yeah, again, like the fog. I mean, yeah, it sounds stupid, but it really describes how I feel about the fog of badness. It's like, I do not know what we are heading into exactly, just that it doesn't look good from where we're going. I think I said like last year in the video chat that like I see no non-radical solutions to the I think this is a largely solvable problem, but we would have to change how we structure things so much. It would have to be closer to like what we did for mobilizing for World War II than like what we're doing now. What we're doing now, it seems like let's see what the minimum we can do is to kind of delay this more. That's been my impression of how we're responding to the pandemic. It's well again with the I mean maybe not the medical side of it. Like I think we're finally trying to kick that off, but the economic end of it. It goes back to here's the question. And for anyone who has strong opinions about this and you think I'm completely wrong, here's the question to ask. That, like, I think it brought it back up in the robot jobs. What do you do when there are more people who need to support themselves than there are profitable jobs available? Like either, and that includes like gig work or self-employment stuff. Just because, see, that's the part that just struck. Well, that's one of the aspects that struck me as unsustainable of our economic system, and the pandemic really accelerated that. So it's kind of forcing us to confront that sooner, and the system's still very resistant to deal with that. So where that takes us, yeah, probably nowhere great. So yeah, and feel free to email me about future predictions on this. I tend to find it interesting, like where. Trying to predict how this unfolds, Okay, will the movie be released in stereoscopic 3D? Maybe. I mean, it's the sort of thing where I'm gonna make the movie from a 2D, like a conventional viewing standpoint, so that may or may not lead to like good 3D viewing. But if it's not too much work, I don't have a problem like releasing a 3D version of it like after the fact. I mean, because like 99% of it would be in 3D anyway, and I would just have to have things like credits adapt to 3D formats, or depending on what effects we use. But I don't think there would be much in the way of like post processing effects that would have to be in. So yeah, it's enough. Now whether that looks good or not, I can't promise. But I mean, if people really wanted to, I could try to release that. Or depending how the copyright issues are looking, I can maybe like release like the maps and scenes for different parts of the movie, that sort of thing. So even if the movie's not 3D, you could walk around in VR or 3D for it. Although that may or may not be as great as it sounds, because not always, but sometimes, like with Silver Protection, I would have what you're seeing on the screen, and then everything else, I might have the map, but that's it. It would just be kind of like barren. So there might not be that much going on. It might kind of destroy the illusion a bit. So I probably want to release that after the fact as opposed to at the same time. Okay, let's see. This one's asking about Freeman's mind. Are you going to give us download links to those? Oh, they're asking this question I already got answered. So yeah, it depends on what the mapper is cool with. What's the most difficult source engine issue you had to deal with in Freeman's mind? Probably the worst were in Civil Protection, where they just, because it could hold up the whole scene. The most difficult. Well, I remember one that was kind of a hassle was the barnacle tongues would contract up if you started recording a demo, and they would only look correct if you clip through the wall while you're looking at them. Then they would be set and good for the rest of the demo. So what I would have to do in Freeman's mind was for any level that had the barnacles in it, I'd have to first start it, then go and like go to every locate, set like no target mode on so the enemies don't attack me. go to every location there's a barnacle in the map, fly there, look at it, then come all the way back to my point and then start recording the demo and hope I don't screw up so I have to start all over again and go through that process all over again. Some of the trickiest parts actually, like, I don't know, some of them I just ended up dealing with. Actually, some of the hardest parts of Freeman's Mind are just redoing portions where I know I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and it all has to be kind of continuous because there's not like a good spot I can sort of splice together different footage. And if I screw up, I gotta start over and do it all over again. Some episodes like that got pretty rough. I'm trying to remember offhand which ones, but where I'd have to redo them like 20 times to get it right. It usually wasn't that bad, but it still feels longer. You know, it's like it's like trying to. I'm sure a lot of gamers have experienced this. It's like trying to beat a hard game, like, except the real hard part is at the boss at the end of the level. And if you screw that up, you have to start that level all the way back. And that level wasn't easy either. So you have to redo that portion too. So are Freeman's Mind all one takes? No, but I try to make it so that if there is a take, it's seamless, unless it's a level load. Although, yeah, here's the thing: the level loads are those are seamless because you almost always, because if I were to just start it there, then the difference would be way too off. I mean, some things I can't avoid. Actually, I just leaned into it this episode. I love how that turned out, where like in between the level, the camera just judders for a second. So I just have, okay, fine, he tripped that stuff, ooh, and then I just have him keep talking and just completely ignored that in the last episode. No, not all. I think the last one was all one take. Usually if I have something that was not one take, you're never gonna notice it because I was too sneaky with where I try to split in between. Like the where the split points occur will be something like when he's climbing a ladder, or if I'm up against a wall and I do a quick turn. Then that's something I can try to recreate close enough when I'm re-recording. And then what I do is it's recorded at like 180 frames a second. I go and I splice that to where it looks about the same. Then I run the motion blur script on it, and the motion blur helps mask it pretty well. So it's it's this. So if you. Yeah, I get some, if you're really looking for it, you might see them in some of the episodes. I don't even remember where all of them are. But that's where it would happen. Like climbing a ladder because I'm like right up against the wall. Or like I do something and I do like a real quick turn. Yeah, but because sometimes I have a scene that's like so good, like I'm never going to get something like this in the footage again. I have to find a place to splice it elsewhere. Actually, you know what? I realized I might have another blooper for Freeman's Mind, the last episode. This one was, yeah, okay, I'll keep it a surprise. I don't think it'll be as good as the last couple ones. It's another Source Engine bug. But yeah, I think the best one of those was where I just get out the boat and instead it flips me upside down into the water for no reason. But this one's different than that. Yeah, I forgot all about that. Okay, so yeah, Freeman's Mind 215 might get a blooper I'll release in a little while. I just forgot to. So yeah, okay, I lost track of my train of thought, but yeah, that was the other hard part that's about Freeman's Mind is, like, let's say I am doing like a splice scene, I have to redo it. Well, when you record demos, if a character hasn't died, if a character has already died and the body's there, it will not keep the body. So that means you have to go and kill them all over again while the demo is recording in order to have them about in the same place. So one of the hardest parts can actually be if it was just going on so long and I don't think I'm going to be able to get it all good in all one take, I'll have to go back, and if I have to like backtrack, I have to kind of recreate the crime scene for some of these episodes. So it would, yeah, that can be annoying. Toby's helped me on some of those too, where I'm saying, okay, I'll give him some screenshots of what it's supposed to. That can actually happen when I'm resuming episodes, because I might just save my game and then that's it. Well, if I start a new episode there and there's like a body lying there, that means I have to go back and like have the NPC killed while the demo is recording before it goes in there. So there's some hoops jumping through it for Freeman's Mind, but it's getting better with help. So, okay, it should. Oh yeah, this was a decent question. I've had this thought too. Two things you speak about often are preservation of games and the inevitable descent of humanity into a post-apocalyptic nightmare. Well, maybe. It's the fog of bat. Certainly a descent of some sort. Yeah. Don't these seem to be somewhat at odds, given that we won't be playing games much further into the future anyway? Yeah, he's talking about climate change, mass poverty, unemployment, robots taking our jobs, invasion of the Leprechaun Bigfoot Alliance. Yeah, it is a bit of a cognitive dissonance. I guess, I had to stop and think about it, and I realized it goes back to what I said in that follow-up episode, where my brain tends to kind of swing back and forth between reality and escapism. Well, games preservation interrupts the escapism. So I'm thinking like, oh man, like we have lots of problems, or trash the environment, or the economy's going crazy. It's like, well, I can pretend I'm a space pilot or something. It's like, oh, but wait a minute. Now this game is going to be getting shut down in 90 days. Now you're forcing me to deal with this issue. Just even it's invading the escapism is the problem with that. It's like, it's not letting you escape. So that's why game preservation like just bugs me so much. It's because when I want to shut off my brain, it's not letting me, depending on the game. And I would say, like, as for future humanity, who knows, where we're going. I will say, I think the future of humanity is totally not sustainable at these numbers with the way we're doing things. So we need to change things. And ideally, we would kind of get things down to more sustainable levels in a smart way, so it doesn't have to be apocalyptic. But if we're not doing that, then it can get ugly. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have enough information to declare a lot of this stuff a foregone conclusion. It's just that it's like when I was talking about traffic earlier. I can look at the direction the car is going and assume that if they don't stop, this is going to happen, So, let's see. But yeah, it is a bit of a cognitive dissonance. And don't think for a minute that like I consider game preservation as important as some other issues. It's just that I realize that's why it keeps getting in my face about it, because it keeps invading the escapism. So, okay, let's see. What is your desired way to introduce a character and establish that they have a great and unique personality? I didn't see this question earlier. Geez, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't, for my style of doing it, I like to kind of focus on like, where is the trajectory of the video or the story going? And then think about like how the character kind of is inserted into that, rather than make the character the focus, unless that's an interesting part of the personality. Yeah, I wanted to show some more characters in Civil Protection, actually. I had ideas for some. I don't know. This is a real vague answer, but yeah, I guess just don't introduce a character for their own sake. Like, have a real purpose with what you're doing, with why they're coming into the story, and have a way that like it makes you interested in what's happening. Like you know, just don't just like, okay, hi, I'm Tim, and then yeah, don't make it feel too forced. Make like you can kind of have, you can figure out ways for them to have an entrance, or the plot folds in such a way that meeting this character is a logical conclusion of that sort of thing. So yeah, we'll say the mention, yeah, with the Tim analogy from Monty Python. Well, the thing is, the Monty Python, they were seeking Tim out for how to defeat the rabbit. It's been forever since I've seen that, but so no, that works because okay, well, we've established a conflict and we need to get help, and that's how we introduce our character. The character's the help, you know. Yeah. Although even without that, he's kind of an event in himself because when they first see him, they're just kind of wandering these mountains, and then there's just all these explosions going on, and he's just going full pyromancer and just blowing things up. It's like, okay, well, that's a spectacle. Great. This is a great way to introduce our character because he's already there and he's interesting. So like, yeah, let's see where this goes. Yeah, I guess don't make it feel forced. Make it feel like make your audience interested in who this character is. You know, yeah, as opposed to just kind of cramming him in there. Okay. Do you have favorite movies or TV shows which you rewatch every year? No, my memory is, I guess, too good for that. I like to let it really fade. Even even replaying some of Strife, because I did the game dungeon on it a while back, it's still relatively good in my memory. So I'm thinking, maybe I should just try and play Hexen or something instead that I don't remember as clearly. But there's some parts of Strife I really want to see in VR. So I may not end up replaying all of Strife. I may just see a few locales in it that I really want to see in VR. But yeah, I like to let my memory like really fade. So I'm sketchy on the details of it. It's new enough for me again. Okay, we have this. I may start skipping some of the questions now. Let's see. In the Sin episode, did he deliberately say torpedoes when the polygon boobs were in the frame somewhere in the middle of the video? I'm not sure. Maybe. I would not put it past that for the dialogue. You know, this one I might. I have to think about this. It's a good question. If you were a character in Mortal Kombat, what would your fatality be? What would your friendship be? I kind of don't want to answer the first one just because my mother occasionally watches these and I don't want her to disown me. So let's see. For friendship, what would be? Yeah. I'm trying to think. Like if I was like a fantasy character, I think I would want to be like some sort of explorer. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Here's what I would do. If I had a friendship for Mortal Kombat, I would like I would just maybe cast a spell or something, open up this portal to another like world or dimension, and while the character's staggering, I just grab them and just pull them along with me, and we both go into the portal and it closes. So yeah, I think that would be my friendship for Mortal Kombat. So we're just heading to some new territory. I just grab them while they're still like stunned, and then it just, yeah, we're going here. That'll be a good friendship there. Okay. What game do you regret purchasing the most? This is an easy one, actually. H1Z1 Just Survive for multiple reasons. Because the first is the obvious. They shut the game down, so it's completely unplayable now. Yeah, I made a whole Dead Game News on part of that. So I can't play it now. It's worthless, even though it doesn't need to be, especially since that was. See, there was H1Z1 like the main game, and then they split it. And there was like H1Z1. I forget the name of it. That was the multiplayer battle royale kind of focused one, and then H1Z1 Just Survive was like the more single player focused one, where it's more like player versus environment. So you'd think they could have swung a little bit to the left to keep that alive. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that's one of the very few purchases I had with cryptocurrency, and that's turned into one of the most expensive games I've ever bought. Because I think I used like Litecoin, like I depleted so like the Litecoin and Dogecoin on that. So yeah, if I were to buy that game now, it would be worth tens of thousands of dollars. So I bought a game that that is completely unplayable now, and if I hadn't bought it, it would be worth a lot more. So not only is it worthless, but it's the most expensive game I've ever bought. Like I think I bought it for like $10 worth of cryptocurrency at the time, but it would be tens of thousands of dollars now. So oops. Yeah, that's easily the most, because it comes at me from both sides, for having most regret about it. Favorite fast food restaurant? I don't know. I mean, if I'm hungry enough, it just I like food when I'm hungry. Yeah, I think we're definitely getting to the skip questions. One's, how many fingers do you have? There you go. You can count them. Could go slow motion if you need to. Well, actually, this is a decent question. Will Freeman ever get something to eat? I hope so. I'm not sure where to work it in, though. So, okay, I'm skipping some more. I don't know which video is the most time-consuming. Oh, okay. When you consider the time spent to video length ratio, it might be the tunnel for civil protection. It would definitely be the civil protection for like most time consuming versus the length. For non-civil protection videos, the games as a service is fraud one. I spent a long time on that one, like getting the research right and just getting everything in order. But yeah, civil protection. I want to say like maybe every single civil protection dwarfs like every other video for time spent versus the length. Maybe the one where they're just answering questions, the Falling Water episode, that might have been the easiest one, I think. But yeah, though even that had motion capture. So, yeah, I don't know. This is why the movie is taking so long, because animation is brutal. So. Okay, well, I'll answer this one since I have an answer. I don't want to go too deep into all of this because I prefer more like macro level questions. But they're saying, what do you think about Joe Biden's presidency so far? And the answer I'll give is, I thought about it, and like an image came into my head. Like in the movie Airplane, like the spoof comedy, flying airplane. There's a scene where they have the autopilot come on, and they press the button, and like this inflatable doll comes up, and it just is there with a smile, and it just grabs the steering, for the yoke for the plane, and it's just sitting there smiling, just kind of. And I feel like that's what I would compare it to, like it's like I feel like Joe Biden's the autopilot, but the autopilot's not going to stop you from crashing into a mountain, running out of fuel, adapting to an engine fire, emergency landing. So it's steady as it goes for the moment. That's I feel like that's the. So yeah, I would compare Joe Biden's presidency to the autopilot in Airplane. Actually, I realized I actually don't know what autopilot is capable of in modern airplanes, but Airplane was filmed in the 70s, so for sure the 70s, the airplane autopilot. It's not capable of doing landings or evading mountains, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's the best answer I can give on it. I don't know the Show Mythos series. Sorry. Somebody's mentioning Moonstone. Do I know this game? I guess I don't. Is this turn-based comp? No, maybe not. Okay, maybe I can check out Moonstone sometime. Somebody give a link there. Adventure games are famous for nonsense puzzles, but what do you think of misclone puzzles? I find them fair across all Myst games. Oh, okay. To me, misclones are just adventure games in first person. I don't know. They can. I've only played the first. I've only played Myst and Riven, but I mean I've played other Myst clones. They can get just as not okay. They may not get as goofy, but for sure they can get as you're never gonna guess this as like the standard third person adventure games. So let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like ones because I mean it depends. Like I guess what I don't like about the thing I like the least about the Myst puzzles that I remember was you hit some switch. You have no idea what that does. I mean, you didn't hear like a click or something behind you. No, you just hit it, and then there's like something like 12 rooms away that caused some hatch to open. So you've got to. So not only do you have to backtrack, but you have to backtrack and hope you notice the difference. And it just like I like my puzzles more direct. You know, like let me know what like have some weird, like have some door with some weird puzzle that I need to figure out to slide things around, or you know hit the right dots in some sequence. Like I don't like having to hunt. I don't like having to hunt to find my puzzles. You know, so I never really like that aspect of it. But I mean, if it's straightforward enough, sure, I don't mind stuff like that. Yeah, somebody's asking if I feel my cells changing to another person yet. Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if this is true or not. I've heard like all of your cells regenerate over the course of like 7 years or something like that. I'm not sure. Will there be another birthday special coming? I don't have plans for one. I got a lot of what I wanted in that. Between that and the Dream Software video and the GUI one, I'm more or less set. I actually, yeah, I kind of wanted to emphasize. I think I maybe cut that line out of the Dream Software one. I know from the viewer perspective, it might seem like I'm just going to endlessly keep asking for more things. I mean, I suppose that's possible, but no, I've covered some real cornerstones of stuff that like I've wanted just years and years. So, you know, it's yeah, but I'd say for like things that I'm questing for the Dream Software video, the GUI video, and the birthday one, kind of cover most, cover the majority of it. If I ever figure it out, I'll release something on soundtracks and music organization. But if I've released a video on it, then I haven't figured out enough. So, did you ever get the Magic the Gathering card art upscaler? I found good upscalers, but geez, I think one person emailed me on this. But what I was worried about ended up being totally valid. That the pattern of the card scans really can throw off a lot of image upscalers. But there was like a complicated, I found a tutorial on it. There was like a complicated way to fix that in Photoshop, which I didn't feel like messing with at the time. But I think somebody else found another way to kind of filter it out that it worked better. So yeah, yeah, if you want to help with filtering out patterns of magic cards, you can send me an email on that. But yeah, the image upscaling is totally on point. I gotta, in fact, I'm gonna unleash that on a whole bunch of stuff I've been downloading from DeviantArt to turn into wallpapers, where the resolution might not be good enough for wallpaper, but if you throw it through the AI upscaler, it's gonna be in pretty good shape. So, could. Okay, more questions. Let's see. Do I have any other opinions on other Lovecraft movies, like Reanimator, From Beyond? I don't know Mask of Red Death. Maybe I should check that out. Color Out of Space. I don't know the Brian Usna Movie Society. I hadn't heard of that. I think Dagon's probably my favorite like adaptation. I forgot about Reanimator is one of those where, like, in some ways, I think it's almost better than what Lovecraft wrote, because, like, what Lovecraft wrote was like a short story, and it had him like on the front lines of like he's kind of working as like a medic in the military, I think, like Herbert West, and he was doing his experiments that way because people were dying all the time, so he could work with them that way. But like the movie's hilarious, so I love that aspect of it. It's hilarious if you have a dark sense of humor, because like I could see somebody watching that movie and just like not laughing at all, being totally shocked by it. But for my sense of humor, I was laughing hard at multiple parts of that movie. So, From Beyond felt kind of par for the course. Similar to Color Out of Space. Color Out of Space, I think, might have benefited from having a little more comedy in it. There were some moments like I love, well, yeah, like the comic relief especially is like when Nicolas Cage is reacting to his interview about the meteor on TV, and like he's upset with how he looks, and that's sort of. But the Color Out of Space, that one's pretty close to the book. I mean, they added some stuff, but it's so short that they kind of had to make a movie out of it. Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing about Lovecraft that I think is the case with like a lot of his stories that might make it tricky to make movies out of without kind of twisting things around. Is like it doesn't always follow like your normal sort of story flow in a way that's quite satisfying. It's just kind of like exposing you to this kind of unreality, and then like that's it. Like a lot of the plot of Lovecraft stories are kind of like that. Whereas a movie, you kind of want you're building action, you know, your exposition, your rising action, your climax, falling, and conclusion. So you kind of need to. Oh, wait, maybe I should close this. Okay, yeah, you can tell what a Twitch expert I am. So you kind of want more of. It doesn't mean you can't end on a note that's like still raises the Lovecraft dread or whatever, but it's like you kind of want to see a conclusion, and that's a lot of his stories aren't like that. They're just kind of like exposing you to something, and that's it. So whereas to me, the most satisfying movies have like a good plot flow to them. So that's why Dagon, I think, that was one of the reasons I thought it worked pretty well, is because it really did have a plot flow. He had like objectives he was trying to get through. He had like something he was trying to overcome. It had like a conclusion for it. I mean, you again, you can still have like the twist at the end that the horror's not gone. That all kinds of horror movies do that, but it's and Color Out of Space was kind of like that. It's just you know it comes out of space, things get awful, and that's it. You know, it was if you really could. It's a movie you really could sum up in a sentence, but I mean, it's cool seeing it unfold, and the adaptation I thought was, yeah, I mean, it's an excellent adaptation of the story. I mean, it really gives that feel of it, but it's as a movie standpoint, it's not necessarily the most satisfying, I guess. Yeah, somebody's mentioned. Yeah, was it like In the Mouth of Madness? That was well. I guess this is based off of Stephen King, but it may as well be Lovecraft. The Mist. I thought that one was like one of the better ones because again, it has like a good plot flow. There's like the building suspense, and then there's your obvious conflict they're trying to overcome, and antagonist. Like it flows better as a movie, I think. So yeah, it's yeah. That's an issue with the Lovecraft stuff is that the good guys aren't really winning in Lovecraft universe because these are like cosmic horrors. They're the scale's too big, so you're not gonna. It's not gonna end in a shootout with Cthulhu. I mean, yeah, you can do that, but it's gonna be a dumb movie if it does it that way. So the point is that like the reality is collapsing, or so you need to have like smaller scale stories that connect to that, and that's the part you make a movie out of, in order to have it be satisfying. Whereas the Lovecraft, I feel like Lovecraft works better as a setting more than anything else, you know. Uh, so you can solve the smaller conflict, but the larger one, nope, humanity lost. This is in Lovecraft's realm now, So I think you can still have good movies and stories that way, but again, you don't really win against Lovecraft stuff. You don't defeat. It can't really be the antagonist. It has to be more like the setting backdrop. Let's see. Oh yeah, I wasn't really sure how to answer this one. They're asking. One of the main appeals of Game Dungeon for them was I noticed little details and extrapolate what the larger world must be like. Bring that to the surface. Do you do so intentionally for the sake of it, or does your mind naturally go to these places even when you don't want to? Yeah, it drifts that way. It's more than that for just games. I mean, it just the, that happens. That happens more and more. Like, well, no, it just happens. Like I remember in Gears of War, I was noticing like a lot of the architecture of the like gears were like a real symbol of like some of the architecture on the textures, and that was kind of making me think about. I was having all sorts of. I was having like these other side thoughts about Gears of War that have like nothing to do with the main plot. Maybe that'll get a Game Dungeon sometime. I don't know. But yeah, it's just how my brain's wired. I don't know. It just things spark. I see things and they spark thoughts of other things. Oh yeah. In Freeman's My Episode 30, what was your plan for Gordon's response if you could trigger soldier's dialogue? He says he didn't sign on for this. Monsters, sure, but civilians? Who ordered this operation anyway? Well, one, I completely forgot about that. See, I've only played through Half-Life maybe like once or twice, I think, before I did Freeman's Mind. And see, the way I do is I kind of go through this one episode at a time. I mean, I'll remember like the core of it, but every little detail. So I didn't even remember that was there. But I looked at that and I was trying to decide. And so I looked at this question. I was thinking about, oh yeah, well, how would I have handled that? And I realized exactly how I would have handled it if the game would let me. So he's saying monsters, sure, but civilians. I was like, oh, okay. So this guy's having. I would have Freeman walk out right in front of him and say, yeah, like, can you believe this? Like, and then like act like Freeman's on their side. Then the soldiers just jump and like start shooting at him. And then, so basically just have Freeman walk out into the, yeah, he would give him a chance. He would walk out right in front of him saying like, yeah, I know, right? You know. And so sort of walk into it then. Okay, skip. There's a lot of questions. I should get more discriminatory here. Yeah, there were questions about food. What do you think about YouTube's increasing preference towards short disposable videos? I wasn't aware that happened. In fact, I thought they were trying to move you towards at least 8 minutes so they can insert the mid roll or something like that. You know, I really appreciate. Thanks again. I'm catching up on thanking people by email, but thanks again to anyone who has donated, just because it allows me to just not worry about whatever about most of the insanity YouTube's going to do, because they're going to come up with new rules. You know, like what, a couple of years from now, something's going to be different. They're going to have different rules or algorithm preferences or so I can just sort of not, I can just focus on just trying to make a good video for you guys and not trying to like game the system. Yeah, like that's the reason I don't split up the longer game dungeons anymore, because I figure it's like, well, why? You know, I mean, before it's like that, there was a strong monetary incentive for me to do that, but it's like I'd rather people just, if watching the video too long, fine, pause it, come back to it later, you know, or stop it, or some people want to watch it straight through, great, you know. So I I feel like trying to please YouTube. I understand not everyone has this luxury, but for me, it's like the path to madness. Whereas I'd rather just focus on just trying to make something decent for you to watch, and like just focus on a quality level. I think that's the best strategy that works for me. So if YouTube doesn't like if YouTube doesn't, the algorithm doesn't reward it, but fans like it, great. Yeah, and I'm satisfied with it, then so that's the main thing. I always try to look at the videos from the perspective of like, okay, if I stumbled into this and didn't know what this was, would I keep watching it? And like, I, I try to make the videos all at least hit the standard of I hope so, you know. So okay, I'm skipping some more questions. Well, actually, I'll answer this one. The last Freeman's mind was, he actually gassed unconscious, or did he simply pass out from stress and exhaustion? I don't know. I haven't decided. I don't know either. I knew I did want to end the episode there because like I needed a jumping off spot, and I thought that would just be hilarious to have him just have have the have him just freak out over the gas. Like, oh yeah, I figured that was a great spot to just to end that episode. Yeah, okay, you're being gassed. Bye. You're being gassed. Bye. You know, that's why there was no kicker, because he got knocked out. So yeah, Kleiner. Yeah, because well, I was thinking, I didn't have time to say it, but maybe I'll say it in the next episode. One of Freeman's last thoughts I would be thinking would be how he wanted, if this wouldn't be happening if he had the helmet, but he did have the helmet because Kleiner didn't give it to him, and Kleiner, and then like that's it. So, I mean, I feel like Freeman still blames Kleiner for some of this. Yeah, I see Freeman as like simultaneously blaming Kleiner, having respect for him, and fearing him. Like I feel like Freeman has all those emotions about Kleiner, so it's like it's like he respects him, he resents him, and he's fearful of him. So and like it's like all of them together, you know. So where would you place yourself on the Dungeons and Dragons alignment chart, and why? I don't know. I mean, it's like, let's see. Well, I would usually play as like chaotic neutral characters, but I mean, I guess in reality it gets more like, okay, there's like lawful good, neutral good. I guess like neutral good ish. Yeah, somewhere around there. Like not, I'm not a saint, but I'm not trying to create problems. But like true neutral, that's not it either. I mean, I, lazy good, I think. That might be. I mean, I'm not lazy, but for like, on some things I am. So, yeah, I think lazy good is the best way to do it, because you can motivate lazy people to join causes, but they're not really spearheading other stuff. And but chaotic good, it's like I don't really. No. I mean, I obviously see some things as like I see abandonment of like some things as like that doesn't make it chaotic good necessarily in my eyes, depending on what you're doing. So yeah, yeah, there are some games I wanted to play as a kid, but I couldn't. Well, Super Metroid was like that. Uh, Mario Brothers 3, that's another big one. Battletoads being completely ignorant of how hard that game got, because you see the first level of Battletoads, it looks awesome. Second level looks pretty good too. So, yeah, Sonic games. Yeah, I mean, or some other Castlevania games for sure. Super Castlevania, yeah, Super Contra. Let's see. I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of some other ones. Well, well, you get the just sort of classics on console. Oh yeah, this is a decent question. Do you think GOG doing anything with Razer is stupid, really bad, since they have a discount thing going on? Yeah, I hadn't even heard of that till this question. Since Razer has the whole computer peripheral DRM thing going on, it seems like Razer and GOG should mix like oil and water. But here we are. Yeah, I think I think this is this. Geez, I had a thought on this and I lost it, but it's. Oh yeah, that was the analogy I had. It reminded. Yeah, you're right, but at the same time, I know GOG was having money trouble, or not money trouble, but like reduced income for a while. But that was before Cyberpunk, so maybe they got better since then. But they, in terms of the ideology, the analogy I would make would be, in like action movies, or like there's like a military base, like, and there's an enemy or a monster, like they've breached the perimeter. Like I feel like that's what's happened. Like the perimeter has been breached, but the inside is still, the core is still safe. Like, because really, what I think a lot of gamers care about with GOG is that when they buy the game, they get to keep the game. So, and that still seems to be the case. So I agree. A partnership with Razer, which is known for DRM, it's not a good look. And I imagine the people who made that decision either were even unaware of that, or else they decided, you know what, we can compromise our values enough for the money we're going to be getting on this. Or maybe the people making the decision, they don't even care about that. It's just that they know the game DRM is their directive, so they can't do business with that. But this isn't stated in the policy, so fine, we're going to do it and make money with the partnerships. So yeah, I would. The perimeter has been breached of the DRM ideology for GOG, but they haven't gotten to the interior yet. So that part's still safe. That's so the. the the game DR the DRM has not breached the games yet, so that's something. But yeah, no, you're right. It is a bit of a conflict. Do you take walks around town where you live? Yeah, every day for exercise. I'm doing hikes and forest. Although, oh yeah, I'm probably gonna get the vaccine soon. Yeah, I realized that prediction of years that I mentioned earlier. That was what that was. I was just relaying what my wife told me for that. So it's not. I realized before. It's like, well, it's the sort of thing where, like, as you have regions getting vaccinated, more they'll kind of spill over into others, and it looks like that was the case. So I realized it's just kind of like I think it was Windows Vista was notorious for time estimates for like file copy operations. I think there's like a XKCD comic on that where they'll say what it's just like if real life estimates were like file copy operations, okay, I'll be there in 15 minutes. Oh wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong map. It's gonna be wrong map. It's gonna be more like 20 seconds. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. It's gonna be 3.5 years. Like, so it sounds like it's gonna be rolling out more like for the similar developed countries. So okay, somebody's linking to it in the chat. So great. Oh yeah. Oh that. Yeah. Okay. Reminds me of something else, but yeah, I'm gonna be getting the Pfizer one, like I think next week. So that'll be good because then I'll be able to start running again because I'll be running before. It's the sort of thing where like there would be just too many people. So so once I get that and it gestates or however long it takes, then probably start running more. I like doing hikes, but they're less time efficient than running, so that might actually help output a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll go through the entire process, the first dose and the second dose. And then even then you're supposed to wait. Well, I think my parents said you're supposed to wait about a week, and then Magda said you're supposed to wait about a month, so I'll figure out what it is. But yeah, it's not going to give 100. For all it's not going to give 100% guarantee, but it'll expand my level of acceptable risk to go run out by the forest where there's more people running there. So it'll increase my acceptable risk levels, I think. And for all I know, I'm a carrier. I mean, I've been going out every day for exercise. I mean, I wear a mask, but I have to take an elevator to get down there. But so let's see. Given the Razer now is DRM, SteelSeries has gone down in quality. Logitech has been low quality for a while now. Who makes good peripherals? I have no idea. I mean, even when I was picking brands, I was going more by the shape of the mouse. Again, I have my off-brand, what is it, U-Rage mouse. Okay, who makes this? Yeah, here's just maybe U-Rage is the brand. Does what? Yeah, it has buttons. It has 2 buttons on both sides, and the shape is okay-ish. So it has weights, though I don't care about that. I took all the weights out. Yeah, for I always try to even though I can't see anything, I always try to cover the lens when I flip the mouse upside down because it gives off a laser. I'm thinking, well, how strong is that laser? Maybe I shouldn't be looking at this even though I can't see it. So I always try to do that. Okay, I'll answer chat questions in just a minute. So yeah, oh yeah, that's what I remembered. I'll link to this on YouTube. Let me make a note. There's a great comic about how I view like our current economy. Well, the core of it. I think was it Saturday morning breakfast cereal. Comics, I'll link to that. I don't want to spoil it unless I can find it real quick, and I'll put it in the chat. And they basically present the economy like it's a fairy tale. And it's, yeah, okay, I found it. Okay, here we go. I'll put it in the chat. So you can take a look at that. I'll put that in YouTube too. Yeah, I thought it was perfect. This is, I think this is more for like the 2008 crash, but I feel like the fundamentals haven't changed. So I feel there's a lot of parallels with how we're running the economy in this comic. Okay, I'll look through. While people are looking at the comic, I'll look through more of the questions here. Ever thought of making a video on ways game companies can stop their online-only games from shutting down? Well, I kind of mentioned that in the games as a service video, but it sounds like they want a standalone thing. I mean, maybe. See, I feel like the biggest problem, like if this is not, well, okay, I was gonna say, conceptually, this is not rocket science. Obviously, coding servers and adapting those to offline play, yeah, that's pretty complicated. But again, not much more complicated than other aspects of game development, code-wise. So the concept, people know how to make game. A lot of programmers know how to make games just easy. It's a really easy question. Like, pretend you have to shut down the game and people who buy it are going to no longer be able to connect to your servers. How can they get the game running? And then, because different solutions work differently depending on the developer and what kind of game it is. You know? I mean, a patch might make more sense to one developer. Just a server, a scaled down server would work better for others. So, you know, or just releasing some source might work better for other developers. So it depends. I mean, have you ever been interested in being a game developer? Maybe when I was real little, but like, geez, I feel like I can code if I wanted to throw enough time at it, but it's like the payoff ratio to how much I'm enjoying it is very poor for that. I'd rather make movies. Let's see. I need to try harder to learn Polish. Somebody's asking about that. No, it's not pointless at all. It's just it's just time allocation. Yeah, I'm sure I mentioned this before, but whenever I think of learning a new language, I'm always remembering this episode of The Tick where he goes to this sort of dinosaur tar pits park, you know, where he learns about dinosaurs. And at the end of it, he's like, I've learned so many new and interesting facts today. It's like, and then he clutches his head. It's like, no, if I could just retain it. You know? That's how learning a language feels for me. You know, my main problem is just throwing the time at it and remembering it. I need to get on that more. I still haven't played Half-Life Alyx. I'm going up slow. You know, I had a thought today about VR. Well, Doom. First off, I'm trying to. I messed around with Project Cars a little bit because I got that really cheap, and that supports VR natively. And I was noticing it ran smoothly enough, but if I tried to apply just any sort of anti-aliasing to it, because that's a game that kind of almost needs it. Some of the shimmering off the cars, it sticks out like a sore thumb in VR, like the reflections of the cars. It just came to a crawl trying to do anti-aliasing. That's what got me thinking the other direction. It's like, man, I'm approaching this the wrong way. I need to start with like the less demanding games. That's why Doom Engine games are perfect. You know, it's like, yeah, I think my computer can swing that. And I'm sure some people can relate to that in the chat with video card prices being what they are. But it got me, another thing I was thinking is when I was messing around a little bit with Skyrim VR earlier, I kept thinking, man, I really wish it was wider, the field of view. So What I might start doing next is old. I really. It's probably gonna be a while before I have like a wide view VR device. So I realized we should start playing or like these games in VorpX, like these old games that don't support widescreen. You know that they came out in like when 4:3 dimensions were the norm. So like next, yeah, I was kind of surprised. Apparently, there's not an adaptation for Unreal games for VR. I mean, it probably works in VorpX, but apparently there's not like native mods for it. Like, Epic didn't release the code for the engine, which kind of sucks. So I realized. So what I'm probably gonna be playing next in VR are like old 4:3 resolution games. So I probably want to play the original Unreal or see at least some of the levels of Unreal Tournament, Deus Ex, Kingpin. This is one I want to replay in VR. So it won't be true VR. It'll be like that sort of 3D theater aspect in VorpX. And because it's, and that square, well, not square, but 4:3 ratio is actually better for like VR than real widescreen, because in order to make like 16:9 widescreen fit in VR as like a screen, you kind of have to shrink it down more, and then that reduces the immersion some. So, oh yeah, I still am getting. I'm building up a tolerance, but it's still not great. Like in Doom, I can make like in Strive or Heretic, I can make it maybe 30 to 40 minutes before I start getting real nauseous. So that's more than before. Well, moving to the Samsung Odyssey helped. I need to figure out how to snap. I need to figure out how to add in snap turning. I think that would get me more time. And I've heard ginger can help, so I might try taking ginger pills. Oh yeah, there's a fantastic Penny Arcade comic that's like, this isn't even a joke for me now. Or maybe I already showed that. Yeah, here, I'll put that in the chat. That's another good comic there. Let's see. So yeah, I'll see what the upper limits of my VR, my motion sickness tolerance are for VR. But yeah, snap turning absolutely helps, like big time. Which I don't have implemented in GZ Doom yet, but I think I can do it with some editing the config. Let's see. But yeah, it's probably going to be a while before I get to Alex, because one, I'll just wait till it gets cheaper. Two, it's probably going to be a little more demanding, although Source games tend to be very optimized, so that may not be an issue. But I'd rather just work my way up through history. Oh yeah, and with, I think like some old game emulators support VR, like or at least that screen style, like maybe with like PlayStation 1 emulation or Nintendo 64. Actually, I think maybe all the Nintendo emulators. So those might be good candidates to. So I think I'm going to start going slowly through history. But so Half-Life Alyx, and also a friend told me he played Half-Life Alyx first, and he said it was so good it kind of ruined other VR experiences for him. So it's like, oh, well, now I definitely don't want to touch it. Right? I don't want to eat my dessert first, you know? So. I am not running out of obscure word games for Game Dungeon. Don't worry about that. I just got to get my pipeline faster. Okay. Well, something that's my freedom's mine too. I will say that helicopter portion is like one of my least favorite parts of the game for Half-Life 2. So I am glad I'm through that. I'm unfamiliar with Taskmaster. Is it time to prepare for the collapse of society? Who knows? I mean, it probably wouldn't hurt to have some things like some preserved food or water filters. I don't think we're heading really towards Mad Max. I think more Soylent Green, Children of Men kind of collapse. Let's see. Okay, well, Spider-Bot is one of my favorite Game Dungeon episodes, how weird that game was. I feel like recent Game Dungeons have been too normal. Can we expect more mysterious gems in the future? Is that well dread up? Okay. Well, the first one's a little, the next one's a little strange. It's not Spider-Bot strange, but I will take that into consideration, okay? Unfortunately, the next couple ones I have planned aren't too weird, but I will take that. I'll take that under advisement and start. I'll start. Oh, see what I can find. Uh, there's a wild, wondrous landscape for Commodore 64 for that sort of thing. So, yeah, I don't worry. I can get it weirder. Yeah, you're right. I should probably refresh that a little bit. So, not right away, but I'll try to get you something. So. Can you give us your best? I shall not fail. I shall try. I don't remember exactly how she did it in the episode. Like, I shall not fail. I shall triumph. I don't. I have to hear it again to know exactly how it sounds. I don't think I have the original demo files for Freeman's Mind 1. I think I do for 2. No, I am not doing an HD remaster. Although, I guess if it gets good enough, I'd be okay with putting a AI filter, upscaling filter on it, but it would just be too much work for what we're getting. I'd rather make new videos. Do you think Half-Life 3 will be out before you finish Freeman's Mind 2? I think at this point, probably not. Okay. How come you skipped over the all-knowing Vortigaunt? Because I feel like Freeman wouldn't crawl down a sewage pipe filled with radioactive material that's harming him. Like, besides that, I thought I gave you a pretty good compromise in this episode. Like I mean, you know, you got a taste of him, you know. I mean, it's again, I'm trying to have Freeman treat this like this is real. So yeah, I gave you a compromise. So. I mentioned climate change. What are your thoughts on Greta Thunberg? I'm not too familiar with what her plans are. I've just heard her say we need to do something. I guess here's the better question. Why is a teenager the lead figure for trying to address global warming? Why isn't this a World War II effort? That's the question you should be asking. Who cares? She's a teenager, or I don't know how old she is now. Yeah, Greta Thunberg. The show. Why? That's like asking, like, what is Steve Urkel's plan to address like atomic warfare? You know, like, okay, he's smart as a kid. You know, I mean, I'm not saying she's like Steve Urkel. I'm just saying, like, what, you know, this is a kind of madness that we're not addressing this. So, I don't know a lot of details about her other than she's like real outspoken. She made a speech at the UN, I think. But yeah, I guess that's the question. Why are we leaving this to teenagers? Yeah, so. Okay, let's give it a few more. No, I did not end up killing Dwayne in GTA 4. Well, the other guy, he kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I felt like I understood Dwayne. You know, like, okay, a question about cryptocurrency. Yeah, man, I don't know what to think with cryptocurrency is also a fog for me. Is it a good thing more people are getting involved, or do you think it's just internet fad, get rich quick scheme? Well, for sure, there's some of that. I mean, with cryptocurrency, yeah, I mean, Yes, I still have some of the Dogecoin left actually. Uh, the Yeah, I guess here's the thing. It could 100% be like a pump and dump scheme people are using. The most compelling counter narrative I've heard is that like younger or poor people have heard a lot about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin by now, and it's so expensive. It's like they realize they kind of missed out on that. So it might be a way. It's cheaper than a lottery ticket, is what I've heard. So you might be buying a daydream by getting Dogecoin. But yeah, as for cryptocurrency in general, I mean, it's a multi-dimensional thing, but there's, there's the aspect of it that, like, the world economics in general wants a way to be able to transfer cash or cash equivalent easily, and cryptocurrency can do that. Like if you wanted to transfer it around the world, or bypass a lot of middlemen with banking, that sort of thing. And there's another aspect of it where who knows what's going on with like traditional cash, you know? Like I think the chat told me this, and I checked and it was accurate. Something was like 23% of all dollars in existence got printed last year. So out of that's a lot. So it's like, yeah, the cryptocurrency, it could crash and burn, but I think part of the reason it's going up is for some of them it might look more stable than what's happening to the dollar in the long term. So I can see where people might be going to that. It's uh yeah, I mean, who knows? It's definitely a mix of like the people wanting to get rich and pyramid scheme stuff, and also the let's rethink how money works thing. There's a lot of different stuff going on in there. Um, it's let's see and the thing is, yeah, I had another thought but I lost it. Because let's say let's say we had a Carrington event. I think that's the name of it. The one where like an EMP wave just knocks out all electronics. Well, that kind of makes crypto lose a lot of its value, depending on just how thoroughly the knockout is. Or I'm sure this has been thought of. Maybe this isn't a risk, but let's say quantum computers get up to a point where they can actually start cracking some of these. That would cause crypto to lose a lot of value also. Um, yeah, see, somebody's saying, here's the problem with crypto. It's not backed by military force. Yeah, see, that's another thing. Let's say major countries decided to ban cryptocurrency. Now, true, that would not stop it because of the way it's set up, but that would devalue it most likely. So that way only like maybe some third world countries is it like legal to have or something, if the government found that too much to be a threat. Uh, let's see. So I don't know like how it's going. It's and yeah, okay. You feel free to email me on this. I had one thought that I don't, because there is, I've heard some arguments for that, like for Bitcoin, it's just gonna keep going up and up. And I will say, from experience in Path of Exile, Path of Exile is interesting. Yeah, Path of Exile has gotten me. It gives some economics lessons on some things. In Path of Exile, you can have these items that they introduce, and then they'll phase them out sometimes, but they won't get rid of them, so that the people who already have them, these items might have like much better stats or abilities that you just can't get anymore. So the point they're almost like game imbalancing. So those are some of the most valuable items in the game because you can't get more of them. Like you can't farm for these things. And through dumb luck, I've had a couple in my inventory. And like in the past was I'll stop playing for a few and come back. And I've seen some things they just keep going up in value. like I would not even want to try to buy some of the items I had in my inventory that I could have just gotten it off a vendor in the game for nothing. And then now it's like the equivalent of like multiple mortgages in the game. No, I haven't sold them for real money. I think I'd probably get banned for that. I don't think I'd want to. Yeah, so it's a deflationary economy. Well, no, on some things. I mean, in other things, the currency, it's actually inflationary. I think the items are deflationary in worth, but the actual currency items are inflationary to some extent. So it's I've heard there's an argument to make for Bitcoin, but okay, here's the counter argument I'd like people to email me about if you've thought about this more thoroughly. There is that argument, but see, the thing is, like, Bitcoin is one of those things where like the people who got in early on have an overwhelming advantage of it to the point where it could get to the point in the future at the trajectory it's going that you could have a trillionaire or trillionaires for the equivalent for their wealth in Bitcoin. And my thought on that was, if it actually gets to that point, I would think the global banking system, arguably the people who are running the world to some degree, they would probably not like that. That these people who just some guy mining Bitcoin back in 2009 or 2010 is one of the richest people in the world, or has more wealth than they do. Because a lot of this is psychology with money, especially at the upper levels. So I'm imagining they might do things to try to crater the value of it like that. If they see that this is they're losing influence. And again, that's when they might get major companies to start banning its use to kind of devalue it. And I don't know. It's hard to imagine like the likes of like JP Morgan or Citibank or everything, if they have like a lot of influence over policy and Bitcoin's presenting or another crypto is presenting a threat to their power, that they wouldn't try to sandbag it somehow. Because, I mean, you can say like they can't do that, but well, if they can get the government to make it illegal and get other governments to make it illegal, they might think of some other tricks too that I haven't thought of. So I'd be curious as like, what's the counter argument to that? I'm not saying this in an adversarial way. I'm saying this is like, I don't know. So, yeah, yeah, some things I can kind of predict the trajectory it's going. Crypto, it's like, I don't know. I mean, okay, so that's enough about cryptocurrency. But let's see. Okay. Besides the movie, if you had all your basic needs taken care of for life, no obligation to ever work again, is there any new shows you'd like to make? Oh yeah, definitely. The big question though is, would I want to animate them? Like, I might not want to. If I'm just set, would I still want to animate? It's like, I don't know. Like, absolutely. Like, I have even more ambitious ideas in the movie. It's just the movie I know I can get done. These other ideas, it's like, it's hard to say. But yeah, I'd want to make more. Do you play any games with a controller? If so, what controllers do you use? Yeah, well, like 2D platformers, I usually play with a gamepad, or games that feel like they were meant for like a Super Nintendo, like yeah, it's usually 2D platformers, but there's some like top-down stuff that might work out okay then. And I guess recently with let's see, for VR, actually I haven't mapped I've been kind of using half and half. I'm using the keyboard and this for moving around because I haven't been able to figure out how to map all the controls for the Samsung Odyssey to this. But yeah, I've been using this for like aim, definitely more accurate aiming using this. I mean, I could probably still, but like this, I could probably still aim pretty well with the mouse, but that would up the sickness level really fast, I think. Well, actually, no. I think. I'm trying to think if I could, if I'm just aiming the weapon with the mouse. I think that actually might be more accurate for me. Well, it's definitely immersive being able to point at the enemy and shoot with that. So. Okay, almost done. Then I'll start taking live questions. I'm skipping some of these or else I already answered them. Okay, so I'll start there's already some live questions, so let's see. Have you heard of the discussion of old money versus new money? Supposedly a lot of the old institutions hate people like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. They don't view them as real billionaires. I hadn't heard that. That sounds like a feud I'm never going to get involved in, but might make a fun on any level at all because it's so far detached from my own reality that I can't even imagine. However, that sounds like a fun premise for a game, like Billionaire Wars, you know, like. And you could have different weapons and technology that like the old billionaires prefer versus the new billionaires. That you could have a fun game concept with that. Can share any advice for people thinking making their own mind series? Yeah, two general things. Well, a couple of things. One, don't feel. I mean, it depends on your style, but if it calls for strong emotion, don't hold back with your vocal performance. Your style may not. You know, not everybody needs to be screaming like I do in Freeman. Two, try not to have too much downtime with your dialogue. It doesn't have to be like chock full, but keep it moving along. You know, don't have like these long blocks of silence where your audience might be tempted to quit. And the third is pretend you're the audience member and you just stumbled into this. Would you want to watch it? Do you think these are funny jokes, or is it just something you felt like filled it in? So if it doesn't feel strong enough to you, you might have to like go back and work at your writing some more. So yeah, pretend. Would this satisfy you enough if you were the audience member? Like pretend you pretend your friend made this and you're watching it. You know. How do you and Magda watch TV shows together? Well, sometimes we just kind of move chairs into her room and hook up some speakers on the computer. It's not an ideal setup, but it's the thing is she's gotten really picky about what she watches. So she's not watching as many movies as she used to, whereas I just kind of keep plodding along with shows or movies and in fact, I remember this moment, maybe she doesn't want me saying this, like a couple of years ago, where she said, like, she came in and says, "How dare you watch a movie without me, even though I don't feel like watching movies." There's some movies, if I know she wants to watch it, then I'll just put it off and I'll just wait until she wants to see it, then we'll wait. But what we want to watch doesn't always overlap. So, like a lot of the comic book movies, we wait. I'll watch those with her. But I don't know. Magda can have her own feelings and emotions on things. So if she doesn't feel like watching a movie, I'm not going to push it. So, okay, it's scrolling up a bit. Sorry. Do you view getting a VR headset as a worthwhile purchase for long-term experience in games? Why or why not? Are motion controls worth getting along with the headset? Well, it depends on what you're looking for. I mean, for me, the immersion is the aspect. I would be even okay with VR without the motion. No, you kind of do need the motion controls because so much software kind of depends on that. I remember when I had the DK2 and the DK1, it's like I could run it, but I literally couldn't do anything or even access menus for it for a lot of programs. because they were expecting a motion controller and I didn't have it. So you'll want that just for the compatibility. Um, as for getting one, I mean, yeah, I mean the motion sickness is a real barrier for me, but I'm trying to power through it. I'm gonna go all in, try to have the snap turning. I might even start taking like ginger tablets or something before I do it. Hopefully, I don't think I'll OD on that too much, because I hope not in the long term. I mean, I don't need to do it every day, but like if something that kind of keeps me in there longer. Um, it's all about the immersion. I don't think you're going to get better gameplay really from VR. I mean, you get different gameplay, but if you look at the games that like have like real high level gameplay, or just ones that see, there's different kinds of games like people get really deep into. Like some that's just like it's a masterful story, or others it's like say something like StarCraft. They want to like master the strategy. It like really activates their brain, how it works. Or sometimes it's like what I would call like perfection of style, like the Dark Souls games. You want to get, or like rhythm games or something like that, or some driving ones where they want to do it over and over and over again until they're just a complete master at it. I'd say VR doesn't bring much to the table with that, and if anything, it'll give you a handicap. Um, but for immersion, like if you want to feel like you're in that world, like if you see a game, if you're thinking, wow, I wish I could go to that world, then yes, absolutely go in on VR. That said, though, you might want to. It's tricky how much you want to invest on it, because I feel like buying a VR headset is kind of like buying a video card in like the late '90s, where there's something better around the corner, and it's just moving along at a fast speed. So I'd say if you can get it on a Black Friday sale, this has happened multiple times with the Samsung Odyssey Plus. When it's happened, it happened on Black Friday, and I think I saw it on some spring sale once too. It's normally like $600, but on those special days, it gets down to like $200 or $230. And for that, this is easily the best bang for the buck headset. So yeah, maybe wait till there's like a real big sale. Then I would go for if you're willing to spend more money, yeah. So that's the thing. There's no one best headset right now, except maybe like the XTAL one. I mean, I've heard Valve Index tends to be the best all-rounder. Although Samsung Odyssey Plus, it is the same resolution as the Valve Index, though it doesn't have as many subpixels. But apparently the color is better on this one. And maybe the screen door effect might be a little bit better on this one. Whereas Valve's has a better refresh rate, better controllers, it's supposed to be very comfortable. It's going to be a pretty polished product. Whereas like the Pimax VR, it's like a little more hacky, but it has the best field of view and like has a higher resolution. So it's like, it's all over the place. So, oh yeah, this thing's good enough to play Alex for sure. Yeah, put it like this. Yeah, Samsung, feel free to send me money for. I'll give you. Samsung, feel free to send me money for advertising, because I'm not getting anything for this. If you don't like VR after using this, you're probably not going to like it in general. So I can say that. So, but if you want to go even cheaper, if you just want to like sample it, see what it's like, but maybe you're not going to get too deep. I think they kind of discontinued some of these, but you might be able to pick up some of the older Windows mixed reality ones. Some of those they got down to like around 100 or something like that to get a taste of it. Or if you have a smartphone, you might be able to watch like a VR video on it to get an idea of the experience. So yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. If you want immersion, yeah, you're going to want it at some point. But then if you get motion sick easily, you're going to have some other barriers. But yeah, it's yeah. But if that's not why you play games, you're in there for the mastery, or you're there just for the gameplay, and you don't need to. So yeah, you can skip it. I mean, if you're playing the game and you wish you could go to that world, then VR is for you. That's the way to put it. But you're not going to get a gameplay advantage. You're not. There are barriers to it. It can be a hassle. So, but it's immersion like nothing else. So. I had some experience with the Commodore 64. My dad had one. Like looking at the question here. Okay, but I think I missed others. Electronic's Evil D could be a future thing. Has made any progress on this since? That kind of got, well, a couple of things happened. One, the awful game practices in the industry, especially towards employees and stuff, that kind of got more public. So I feel like I don't really need to fill that in. And the other thing is, I feel like games as a service kind of dwarf that. Well, didn't dwarf it, but that's like that's more the unsung issue. Oh wow, I'm confused. Okay, I thought for a second like the video would have been sort of clipped this entire time, but so I feel like people are kind of picking up because yeah, I'll grant stuff like employee abuse. Yeah, that's worse than games as a service because that's affecting real people's lives and can cause real harm towards it. So, but next to that, I think game destruction is as bad as it gets in the game industry. So, thankfully, that's getting some attention. But plus, I really don't want to focus so much on like awful stuff. I'd rather look having like a fun adventure is like is where I'd like to take things. That's what I like out of like making game videos or like the things like civil protection. I really like to get away from the darker stuff if I can. It's just that I don't know. I felt it's like the more somebody's not talking about something, the more I feel like I need to. So when other people are talking about it, it's like, oh, good. No, I don't need to cover that. So, So yeah, I'd rather get back to stuff like the cave story or Mabu's or like civil protection or things like I'd rather fun adventure stuff is where kind of like the core of where my heart is on this stuff. So. And this other stuff is just detours. So. When's the next New Freedom's Mind episodes coming? Well, once I get the bug ironed out, I'll get started right back on it. So I'm working with other people. I'm afraid I can't give you a time estimate. But once that happens, I could probably, depending how long it is, I mean, like probably a week and a half after that. Although it might be a little longer just because I have someone who's showing promise for helping me volume balance things. So if I have almost a psychological block against volume balancing where I'm sure people have this for something where it's like a real simple chore. It's not hard. It's just a little tedious. But for some reason, that just drives me insane. It's like, I'd rather go like do the dishes or like clean the house or something or cook than do volume balancing. I don't know. I just kind of force myself to do it. So if I'm getting help with that, then that's good. But I still want it to hit like certain quality standards. So. How's the movie going, Ross? The movie, I'm trying to knock out a couple other things, then I'm going to get back to the movie. It's like I got so bugged. Okay, I don't want to get into that now because it's going long enough. If you want, people can ask me about that next time. I had computer issues that were my fault, and it caused some delays, but I'm on top of it, but I'm still kind of cleaning up the wreckage. So. Okay, well, I'll say real quick. Short version, someone who was well-intended, I suggested I'll just say now. Suggested I check out the program Snappy Driver Installer Origin, where it was like a third-party way to like update drivers, and I was switching motherboards. I switched motherboards. I'm on a 4970K now, although I'm not overclocking it. So some may see that as a waste, but that's up from my Xeon that somebody donated earlier. Oh yeah, and I have 32 gigs of RAM now. I've definitely been enjoying that. So I swapped to a new motherboard and CPU. So I figured, yeah, it'd be good. I didn't want to let Windows Update get in because there were these reports of things going wrong with Windows. Sorry, the chat's paused here. Going on at the time. So I updated that, and then I started getting some errors. I was thinking, well, wait a minute, I thought I rebooted. Is everything all right? It turns out it installed a faulty driver that caused disk corruption errors. And oh boy, I was not expecting that. And it happened on my Mirror RAID, which I know RAID's not a backup, but I wasn't expecting it to I wasn't expecting the drivers to corrupt. I thought oh, one drive would fail and then I could just go into lockdown. 4790K, I mean, yeah, maybe that's what I mean. I get it mixed. So it's very upper end for 2014. Yeah. So that caused me to panic. It only corrupted just a real little bit, and I was able to recover that. But that put me into paranoia mode. So I just did a complete lockdown, made sure I got the drivers settled, and then I copied all the files off it. Then I ended up just not even using that RAID array anymore. And right now, hey, I have another positive thing I can say about Windows 10, even though it should have caught this crap. Apparently the default Windows 10 drivers are better than Snappy driver install. That should not have been able to do that. But I'm using, because I had issues with using a mirror array on Windows 7 before, but now I'm using storage spaces on Windows 10 in a two-way mirror, and that seems to be performing better and be more robust. And then I actually did a test on that first, where I just completely unplugged one drive and took it to another computer and saw if it could read it, and if I didn't have to rebuild it. Oh yeah, and I screwed up in the process and accidentally deleted my RAID array, so I had to run disk recovery software to get my files back. I did get them back, because as soon as I saw that, I panicked, shut everything down. So this was my fault. So now my RAID is set up through Windows, which I think is, seeing what this thing did to my RAID card, caused corruption writing to it. Man, that just scared the crap. And I was being a little reckless. There was stuff I should have moved off the RAID array anyway. And it's convinced me. I'm going to buy soon it was called a Blu-ray M disc, Millennium disc burners, which apparently these things are just this won't be enough to store all my files, but there'll be enough to store all my rarest stuff, like music, scripts, pictures, that sort of thing, rare videos, rare games, abandonware, because they'll burn up to 100 gigabytes. And somebody did a test on those things where they had them. I read this article where, in order to test them, they burned files to them, left them outside for 5 months, and with a regular Blu-ray disc next to it, and then they buried them for 2 months, in the soil, and then afterwards they took them up, washed it off, and see if it could read the files. It read everything after being exposed to the elements for 7 months. So that's a pretty good test. The other Blu-ray was completely destroyed, the normal Blu-ray disc. So I might just satisfy some of my paranoia and put all my most valuable stuff on that, just in case I have something apocalyptic again. So that set me back a little bit, and I forget how I got onto this question. Okay, so let me scroll up again. So yeah, I want to sort out. Right now, my drive space is pretty anemic, because I just made backups of just everything, and I started flooding my external drives with spare space on them, just in case there was one more hard drive failure in this restoration. It ended up being a mess, and it's my fault. Well, no, it's driver updates' fault, but it's my fault for not being more paranoid. So mission accomplished with getting more paranoid. So. Okay. I got a. Who came up with the idea of the buildings in the rebel base near the dam and Freeman's Mine 2? You were the custom. Oh, I think that was more the custom mapper. I just told him I wanted to refit the map so there was a way to walk from the dam to Black Mesa East, and he came up with all the extras, so I went with it. So I didn't know what he was going to put in it. I asked for a couple tweaks that felt like they just didn't look, they looked more map-ish rather than like a believable area. So there were a couple tweaks, but by and large, that was all him. So I just wanted a path to get there and I figured that'd be nice to like have a break from not having to like shout and scream all the time with people shooting at you. You know, it'd be nice to have like a little bit of a cool down. I really appreciate moments like that in games and movies, actually. If it's like, yeah, have your climax and have a cool down, for a while until you get to the next thing. So, okay. When a game is on GOG, Steam, and Epic Game Store, if it's on a weekly sale or Steam, Epic, do you just bite the bullet and get it or wait for the GOG sale? Oh, it depends on how low it is. I mean, I think, yeah, it just depends on how low I haven't done Epic yet. Epic's not the one. Epic isn't the what's the cost leader? Steam usually tends to get the cheapest. Sometimes GOG can get pretty cheap. Okay. What do you think about really dark shows, films like Sicario, Sopranos? I didn't know there was a show based on Sicario. I saw the movies with Josh Brolin and was it Tony Benicio del Toro, I think. Yeah, those are pretty awesome. There was one part in the sequel that made me laugh hard. Yeah, it was just like Mondays, like to his handler after he just got involved in an international incident that's making like global news and like is the sort of thing that can lead to war, and his team got betrayed. It's just like Mondays, huh? Like, I love that. Yeah, the movies are awesome. The Sopranos. Okay, I guess I'm in the minority here. I tried watching the first episode. I didn't really get into it. It just wasn't grabbing me, so I didn't get for. And Breaking Bad. Okay, Breaking Bad I did watch, but Breaking Bad had the. Listen, I am ruthless on movies or unmerciful on movies and shows now, where it's supposed to unpause when I go to the bottom. Oh well. Yeah. Where if I think until somebody comes up with a better term for it, I'm calling it canned drama, where it's just two characters standing around. You've seen this. I've seen this sort of thing like 1,000 times. No, there's no plot development. There's no like real intense emotion. It's just them just standing around. Like, do you remember when we used to talk about that? Do you remember when things used to be this way? I do. Or it would just be crap like that. And it's just like, this does nothing for the story. It's like pure filler. This isn't like drama where I'm just like, oh my God, look at what's happening to this person. Or like, oh, that was a big I know nothing important is going to come up in this. It's just wasting my time. And it's like a soap opera. So I just skip right through that crap. And Breaking Bad had at least a third of that ratio. I mean, the third that wasn't like that was pretty great. I mean, it was a lot of fun or else really interesting or exciting. But yeah, the Fly episode in Breaking Bad, except this is every episode just about of Breaking Bad. It's just that the Fly episode that was almost the whole thing. So yeah, so I have no tolerance on that anymore. Like I just, this comes to movies, shows, and it makes shows and movies that would have just been like, so much more enjoyable now because I just cut through the crap. And I've seen so many movies, and then sometimes I get it wrong. Like I'll skip ahead, like, oh, whoa, that guy got stabbed. I better back up. Okay, what happened? Like, sometimes I miss things, but by and large, I just skip right through it. There was nothing there. There was nothing there. There was nothing there. Like, it's, and see, that's the sign I know I'm watching a pretty good movie or show is when I realize, wow, I haven't skipped through anything. So, oh yeah, the clip might perform. Sure, you can use that for anything. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but that's really what it's like. I mean, I'm calling these canned drama moments. Like you open up a can, fine, here's your drama, just dump it in. We need to fill it in. I'm not against like real drama. I mean, if you made me really care about these characters, or you're just seeing somebody have a breakdown, or just full of rage, or yeah, let's see the drama. But this is garbage, like for me. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be like slow scene, or every scene has to be intense. Like I'm remembering, okay, well, two examples came to mind off the top of my head. One is actually in The Walking Dead, I think in the first episode, because you can't have action all the time. You gotta have some filler, It's just the two cops sitting in the car, and they're talking about, and they're just kind of shooting the breeze, they're saying, but it's funny, is the thing is, he's talking about how, like with his wife, he comes back and he's asking her, she's talking about how they need to get different bulbs or something to combat global warming. And then he's saying, it's like, well, maybe if you turned off the lights when we left the room, then we'd be using less power, so we wouldn't have to worry as much about global warming. And then he's saying, and when I said that, oh boy, he's like, she erupted. He's like, you sound just like my father. And then, and I took the diplomatic option, and like it was just like this. There's nothing there, but it's funny, It's like, yeah, let's have some guys just say some funny stuff. And on the other hand, if you just want, let's say it's not really something that calls for like a comedic moment. I'm actually thinking of like the opening scene in Inglourious Bastards, where this is an SS officer talking to this farmer about trying to find Jews in the area. And man, it's a simple conversation, and he's just asking him questions, but the tension is like the thickest it could possibly be. And then because you're suspecting maybe he does know, because it's the SS, they could do anything to you. So that's like, they're just having a simple conversation, but man, it is like the most tense moment imaginable. So, I mean, that's, that would be, so that's another great way to handle drama, and you're just having two people talking. So, but the stakes are so high with the plot that it adds some meaning to it. So there are ways of handling drama, but so many shows, even otherwise great shows, have like the sort of canned drama I talk about. I just have no tolerance for it anymore. I just skip right through it. So a show that might be an hour long ends up being 20 minutes for me. So yeah, the more I actually watch of a show, or a movie, the better I think it is. Well, it's not like the best show ever, but one show that did not do this, it's like, man, there's like almost nothing to skip. The Shield, boy, that show just keeps moving right along. Like there is not much. Or if there's like a canned drama moment, it doesn't last for more than like a minute, then something else is happening. So, okay, I missed a bunch of questions. Let's see. Sort of answered that. Okay, there's one of our editors in the Hunger Games gauntlet. Look, okay, I've Master Cookie, who sometimes wishes to be credited as Grim Cookie and might be credited as something else in the future. I'd like to emphasize, even though this is going to upset the audience, you don't need to make this as fast as possible. I want you to take your time and do it right. I can always work on another game dungeon or Freeman's Mine. So he is very fast. I worry he's too fast sometimes. So some video producers need really fast people. I want to be able to take their time, do it right. I'll work on something else, so it's not wasted time. The videos will come out. So okay, I mean, if you're just that fast, you're that fast. But you know, how often do you expect that modded maps made for Freeman's Mine? No, it's not going to be that many. I don't have that many more planned. I can think of one where it would just be more like a tweak. I get annoyed by the puzzles that have real obvious common sense solutions. So yeah, those might get tweaked, or I'll just notice a small thing. The next one will be modded, but only a little bit. And I don't know if I have any plans for Ravenholm at the moment. So, and I haven't looked ahead past that. So. Oh, I noticed in your GUI video where you're showing the front end for DOSBox, you still have profiles to return them in Carandia. Those abandonware copies you have from long ago, or do you buy those when they were in abandonware? They might still be the abandoned. What? No. Jeez, I'm trying to remember if I bought legitimate copies of those way back when. Okay, not Eternum. I didn't realize Eternum went legit. Carandia, I might have bought. I don't remember. It might just be like an ISO I had. I don't remember. But I mean, I don't think they lost a lot of money from people who went out of their way to get the game as abandonware, and then a lot of people will pay for convenience. So it's just like Steam or GOG, click, downloads, run, bam. Meanwhile, I'm fiddling with the DOS. I'm fiddling with the DOS box configurations. So I figure I'm in the minority on that. Oh, somebody's saying they really want VR for Elite Dangerous. Well, you better not get motion sick easily. Boy, I tried like 10 seconds of that. Boy, I felt it fast. At least the first-person shooters at Skyrim, it creeps up. But boy, Elite Dangerous is almost instant for me. So yeah, if you have a strong stomach, then go for it. Yes, some people. There's some people. Elite Dangerous in VR is a way of life. All right, so. Do you ever get split ends? If so, do you have a remedy of choice? Oh, for like hair? Yeah, probably. I just cut it if it looks really bad. I don't notice it most of the time. I'm just too ragged. I don't know. If I would have worked in a job, I would have sent you a computer for use in your works. But you know, while educating, cannot. Other than that, well, hey, the 4790K is probably still pretty great for gaming, and processing is actually like encoding and everything. That's a minority of the time actually. So, I mean, yeah, because obviously if I had a Ryzen with a bunch of core, well, I guess the newest Ryzen ones are or like far and away faster, even in single core performance. But I'm not really feeling the hurt by not having extra cores, at least not yet. And then now everything's on a dry spell now. So, do you think game franchises should become public domain if the right holders doesn't make a game, say like it's a decade? I don't know. It's hard for me to give like absolutes on like what should or shouldn't be with copyright. I will say that I mean, if I'm sure there's some scenario I haven't thought of, what I would do is I'd say have like a hard limit on copyright just in general for something maybe like 20 years. And then yeah, I guess unless you're, even then it would just, okay, I guess you could open it up, but only for like single instances. So like, let's say like the Aliens movie or something. If they've kept selling the movie Aliens this whole time, then only they can sell the movie Aliens. However, the intellectual property of the Aliens universe, that's opened up after so much time. So now other people can make their own alien stories or fan projects or something like that. I still feel like fan-made games or projects, if they're nonprofit and they're not an obvious recreation, if they're not like mimicking like exactly an existing thing that is being sold, or they don't. I guess what I'm saying, it would need to be transformative. It would need to be transformative. Like, actually, even a graphics remake might still qualify, I think. Like, because I'm thinking, like, let's say you just, let's say you want to make a fan Metroid game and you recreated all of Metroid, but then you just change one of the sprites or something of Samus and some of the monsters, but it's exact same maps and everything. Yeah, you're not really. You're given the piracy excuse some room, but if it's like just completely different, then yeah. So I guess for graphics remakes, you get into fuzzy territory, but that's how I would do it. But obviously, that's so far off from what we're having copyright. I read not long ago we're having copyright. Yeah, people were asking earlier why are people upset at Bill Gates. Apparently, it's worse than I thought. Apparently, it's holding up vaccine deployment in a lot of third world countries, like directly because of patent protection. It's like, now's the time to drop it. You know what? I might be upset if a game dies. It doesn't kill people. That does people not getting access to a vaccine. So, yeah, this is why watching dystopian science fiction can be a useful thing, What kind of gamepad do I have? It is like it's on the floor is what it is. Okay. It's kind of an off-brand one. Jeez. Okay, it's Trust, which might be a European GXT. Trust GXT. I wanted something that had the kind of PlayStation layout. I didn't like the switched thing since I'm mostly using platformers. And I wanted a wired one. And Logitech has one like that, but they it had somebody mentioned before, but like the stiffness to it. Yeah, it has Xbox input compatibility. It had a stiffness to it, and I got to try one out in the store just before the pandemic really got rolling. And I was like, yeah, they're right. This is pretty stiff. So this has a better feel to it. But yeah, I just wanted the shape could be a little bit better, but it's all right. I just wanted a wired one with this general layout. So. Oh yeah, and I have electrical tape. This light is so insanely bright, I found it distracting, so I just put electrical tape over the light to block it off. You can't turn it off, so unless if it's plugged in. Let's see. Yeah, Trust GXT 101. Yeah, that's probably it. Okay. Almost done here. If your new pipeline results in more free time, would you consider doing more Twitch playthroughs? Yeah, I guess I can. Oh yeah, I want to ask, do people want to, I haven't started yet, but I want to eventually. Do people want to see me play Sunless Sea on stream? I have I played it like once and got confused. So you're going to see me bumbling around and probably dying. So, I will not know what I'm doing in that game. But we see. Okay, so I will not touch Sunless Sea. I'll save that for stream. So whenever I get to that, I'll just make an announcement on Twitter. My Twitter is the Cursed Farms, and maybe you can mention on the website or something. If I decide to do it before then. Again, I'm kind of more in just work and hide mode right now. Well, once I have another game dungeon or two, then I'll feel more comfortable doing streaming. Have you been a full-on PC gamer since you were really young? Or did you not really get into your... since I was young, I guess, just from what was available. I mean, even when I was young, I could tell there were a lot of better games on consoles, depending on the genre. I mean, platformers just... And like a lot of action games that just ran circles around a lot of the PC offerings. Yeah, I mean, PC is a lot better at like adventure and strategy, but those weren't, like, as a kid, those aren't the ones you like really want to see necessarily. It was more the platformer and action stuff. But you'll probably be up for a subscriber button soon. You probably have enough viewer minutes. I think it's not just minutes, it's frequency. So I may never qualify. Because if I only do this once a month, I don't think I'm frequent enough. Okay, and on that, I'm going to end this. I guess thanks for showing up and putting up with my delays. I really hope to make up for it. This is an experiment. If it fails, oops, at least I'll know. If it's successful, it's going to be more videos without sacrificing the quality. So, okay, that's it. I should do something.